Good morning everyone and welcome to the New South Wales Rowing Championships for 2022, and we kick off day 1 of 3 with the Women's Elite Single Sculls. The scullers are in the held start now, and this is also part of the Rowing Australia selection events, and there are 3 heats of this Women's Elite Single Scull, where the first 3 will go through to the A final and the rest through to the B final tomorrow morning. And I'm joined here by Stuart John with the scullers on the start line.
Morning, Owen. It's look, the conditions looking all right at the moment for today. I think there's a little bit of rain forecast for this afternoon, but thankfully, all the racing will be on in the morning. Get it all out of the way and then get ready for the finals tomorrow.
Yeah, so good chance to put your best effort forward today and qualify for the finals tomorrow morning. So the start list that we have here is Liza Marie Lutz of the University of Queensland and the Queensland Academy of Sport in lane number 2. Mila Marston of Melbourne University is in lane number 3. She's coached by Mitchell Nelson. Tara Rigney from Sydney University and the National Training Centre is in lane number 4. Rowena Meredith of Sydney University in the National Training Centre in lane 5. Sarah Hoare of Sydney Rowing Club is in lane number 6. She's coached by Brett Crow and Brendan Longman. And Ellen Pozzi of the University of Queensland has withdrawn out of lane number 7. So a field of 5 and top 3 to progress through to the A final.
Yeah, some strong rowers coming through in these 3 heats. 2 from the NTC on this one, 3 from the NTC in the next heat as well. So that'll be an interesting race. You'd say that, you'd say they'd be the favourites, but you never know what's actually going to happen once they start heading down the course.
We are underway, and 3 Olympians in this one. Tara Rigney in lane number 4 from the women's double scull. Rowena Meredith, who won this event a couple of years ago. She is an Olympic bronze medalist from the women's quad scull, and Sarah Hoare, a 2-time world champion, now rowing for Sydney Rowing Club after representing Hewen for a long time, and she was in the Australian Women's 8 at the recent Olympics. So we are underway, and it's a quality field, as Stuart mentioned. Mila Marston, sub 750 sculler in lane number 3, and we'll see how Liza Marie Lutz goes up against this quality field.
But it does look to be Tara Rigney from Sydney University and the NTC who's taken that early lead just as they head through the first 250, a little bit back to Rowena Meredith, also from Sydney University and the NTC. Mila Marston from Melbourne University, probably about a boat length back from the lead. Sarah Hall from Sydney in lane 6, maybe just sitting in 3rd place at the moment, and then back to Liza Marie Lutz from the University of Queensland.
Yeah, so Sydney University, since the National Training Centres have started, have progressed 12 scullers through, or 12 athletes through to the National Training Centre. It's a great program that they have there with Don McLaughlin and Alfie Young, and producing very good scullers. And Tara Rigney out to clear water now, coming up to the 500 metre mark. She went 7:25 at the Rowing New South Wales Small Boats Regatta, and only about 10 seconds outside of the public course record that Kim Brennan set back in 2016, and Tara Rigney already out to 2 lengths advantage.
Yeah, Tara Rigney, a couple of lengths, then a little bit back to Rowena Meredith, and then Sarah Hall, probably about another bow ball back again in 3rd place at the moment, then back to Mila Marston and Liza Marie Lutz. So Tara Rigney with the early lead. First 3 going through to the A final. You'd say Rowena Meredith and Sarah Hall probably the favourites after 500 metres. Still plenty to go though.
Yeah, so Sarah Hoare was a very good sculler as a junior, and in recent years has spent a lot of time in the sweep boats, and as I mentioned, in the 8 in the recent Olympics, and 2-time world champion in the women's 4, and having switched across to Sydney Rowing Club, where her fiancé Brendan Longman, who's also her sometime coach, is a coach there at Sydney Rowing Club, and it's a club that has the largest number of entries at this regatta, Sydney Rowing Club. They've got a whole heap of gear out there in the boat park, and Sarah Hoare looking very good here as they make their way up towards the 750 metre mark.
it is good to see the large number of entries from around the country, everywhere but WA. Obvious reasons makes it quite difficult for them to be able to get back in, but it is nice to see some level of normality returning to rowing around Australia just as the borders start to close up again.
Yeah, that's right, and it's great to see the athletes being able to put all that training to good use. We're seeing on screen now Liza Marie Lutz of the University of Queensland is having a great race with Mila Marston of Melbourne University over on the far side. These two are pretty much maintained an overlap for this first 900 or so metres, and it's keeping them right in contact with the highly fancied scullers, the Olympians all on the northern side of this field.
Yeah, Tara Rigney about 5 boat lengths ahead at the moment, but then there's not much between the rest. So you've got Rowena Meredith, who's sitting in second place. She's half a boat length ahead of Sarah Hoare over in lane 6, but it's not too far back to Liza Marie Lutz or Mila Marston in lanes 3 and 2. So I wouldn't necessarily write off any of them at the moment to qualify for that A final.
No, within a length or so of a qualification spot with 1,000 metres to go, I think you'd certainly take that if you were looking at a draw of a heat with 3 Olympians in there. So a good performance coming from the scullers over towards the far side. But Tara Rigney is absolutely flying there in lane number 4. She is the top seeded sculler for these selection trials, and for very, very good reason. She is absolutely flying. Still very, very young, 23 years of age, a student formerly at Loreto Kirribilli, and she has progressed very, very well indeed. She was selected a few years ago in the Australian Under-23 team in the pair, and since then has been sculling, and sculling very, very fast indeed. She is the reigning Nell Slatter Trophy winner from the Interstate Regatta down at Lake Barrington last year, and she's leading this field with a very, very comprehensive lead as she makes her way up to 1,400 metres covered.
Yeah, and it's a real opportunity, isn't it, for a lot of rowers after the Tokyo Olympics. We've now only got the 3 years until we get through to Paris, so the selections really start now. It's that opportunity to put a name for yourself in an event like this before Nationals.
That's right, and next year being the qualification World Championships for the Olympic Games. So it's certainly coming around very, very quickly. That it may have been a long 5-year cycle, the last one, but this one being a short 3-year one, and it sort of disappears pretty quickly indeed. So people will need to find their form and find it quickly.
And passing the 1,500 metre mark, it is still Tara Rigney with that comprehensive lead at the moment. It is definitely clear water between them. It is still Rowena Meredith who's sitting in second place over there in lane 5, the Sydney Uni NTC athlete. And then probably back a little bit further to Sarah Hoare, and they just look to have dropped off the University of Queensland's Liza Marie Lutz and Melbourne University's Mila Marston, just dropping off as they come past the 1,500 metre mark. So Tara Rigney in the lead, Rowena Meredith sitting in second, and Sarah Hoare in third place as they come up towards the 1,750.
Yeah, so Tara Rigney looks to have just dropped the rating a little bit, down to about 26, 27 strokes a minute, coming up towards that 1,800 metre sprint canoe hut, and leading this field, and got out to that very, very handy lead of 5 lengths or more, and has been able to just sit on that and drop the rating down and still maintain a lot of boat speed in the latter stages, and watch this qualification battle unfold.
Yeah, looking very comfortable there. Still second place to Rowena Meredith, and she's got about a boat length ahead of Sarah Hoare at the moment. We're just seeing a little bit of a run here from Mila Marston in lane 3 from Melbourne University. She's just started to up her rates and just starting to catch up towards Sarah Hoare. So with about 150 metres to go, it's still an excellent battle for the third final qualifying position for the A final.
Yeah, so it's that good tussle that they've had over on the far side, and you can see Marston just shortening up a little bit to lift that rating up and get a few more strokes in the shades of the finish line, and seeing if she can catch Sarah Hoare in the death of this one. But Tara Rigney crosses the line to take out the first heat of the Women's Elite Single Scull, and she'll go through to the A final, joined by clubmate Rowena Meredith, and Sarah Hoare claims that all-important third spot to go through to the A final. Good performance from Marston of MUBC to go through in 4th place, and she'll be joined in the B final by Lisa Marie Lutz, who certainly gave herself a chance in that early stages of that one. So went out hard and see if she could make it through, but some quality scullers leading that field home.
Yeah, very even race up until the 1,000, and then you just saw that little bit of extra class being able to pull through in that second 1,000 metres. As we head along for Heat 2 of the Championship Women's Elite Single Scull, again the first 3 going through to the A final. In lane 2 from the University of Queensland Academy of Sport, it's Lily Alton. In lane 3 from Griffith Uni Surfers Paradise, it's Morgan Reamer, coached by Lincoln Handley. In lane 4 from UTS NTC, it is Emma Fessy. In lane 5 from Sydney Rowing Club NTC, Harriet Hudson. In lane 6 from Sydney University in the NTC, Kate Rowan. And in lane 7 from ANU, Catherine Kahn, and she's coached by Nigel Harding.
Yeah, so Nigel Harding does a tremendous job down at the Australian National University Boat Club in developing a lot of talent there, and a lot of their good rowers make it through to the ACTAS program that David Fermano heads up. And great to see a strong contingent here from the ANU.
Strong contingent from the ACT in general. A number of guys from Canberra Rowing Club are here as well. We've got some from Marist College, Radford College, looking to build on their success last year at last year's national titles, where they were, I think, the first school to ever win the schoolboy, schoolgirl point score in the one nationals. Yeah,
they had a very, very good program there, and Craig Muller now in charge of that program after Vicky Spencer did a tremendous job in building that up. And in this one we have the sculler from Sydney Rowing Club and the National Training Centre, Harriet Hudson, that is doing very, very well indeed in leading this one out. And going along with her, Kate Rowan from Sydney University and the National Training Centre. Over on the far side of the course, Lily Alton faring quite well, and Emma Fessy, who has had an injury-plagued couple of seasons, is in the mix there in that top 4 placing at the present moment. Morgan Reamer of Griffith University Surfers Paradise is in 5th, and back to Catherine Kahn of the Australian National University Boat Club.
As they just come up towards the 1,500 metre mark, and you can really see there as they're coming down past the first row of tents, the NTC athletes out in the lead, as you'd expect, but also too Lily Alton from the University of Queensland doing quite well there, sneaking through over in lane 2. Not too far behind the leaders, and a very good shot at being able to qualify for that A final. A reminder that 1st, 2nd and 3rd go through to the A final, with the rest going through to tomorrow morning's B final.
Yes, Alton moving along very, very nicely. Ben Southwell, the coach at the Queensland Academy of Sport, and a very, very good and talented junior. I've seen many talented juniors come from Queensland. Harriet Hudson, originally a Queenslander, and has moved down to Sydney Rowing Club and the National Training Centre in recent years. Olympic bronze medalist from the women's quad scull, and getting back into it after a little bit of a break after the Tokyo Olympic Games.
The 1,600 metres down, it's still Harriet Hudson in the lead. Then it's not much between Kate Rowan and Lily Alton for 2nd place as things stand. A little bit further back to Emma Fessy, she seems to have dropped off a little bit, and then Morgan Reamer and Catherine Kahn making up the back of the field as they're coming up towards the 1,750. And Lily Alton is really making a bit of a move. She's probably about 2 boat lengths back on Harriet Hudson at the moment, but she is starting to move quite quickly. But we're also seeing a big move from Kate Rowan as well. Yeah,
certainly tracking along well there in lane number 6 in this 2nd heat. Once again, the qualification top 3 through to the A final, and the next 3 through to the B final. And it looks like the qualifiers are starting to make themselves pretty clear here, coming into this last 150 metres for the race leader, Harriet Hudson of Sydney Rowing Club and the National Training Centre.
And Lily Alton, again, about a boat length back from Harriet, and then Kate Rowan from Sydney University and the National Training Centre. So they'll be our first 3, barring any major catastrophes. Then back a little bit further to Emma Fessy from UTS and the National Training Centre, Morgan Reamer from Griffith Uni Surfers Paradise, and Catherine Kahn, ANU. With about 100 metres to go, it will be Harriet Hudson. She's got a boat length over Lily Alton. So the two of them plus Kate Rowan from Sydney University will make it through to the A final. It will be a win for Harriet Hudson, Sydney Rowing Club and the National Training Centre. Good battle for second place, and I think it will just be Lily Alton by a bow ball ahead of Kate Rowan. So it looks like second place to the University of Queensland, Queensland Academy of Sports, Lily Alton, third to Kate Rowan, and then back a little bit further, Emma Fessy from UTS NTC, and then Morgan Reimer from Griffith Uni Surfers Paradise, and ANU's Catherine Kahn. Strong finish there for second and third. Tight finish.
Good race there, and time about just only 3 seconds slower than the previous heat, and certainly a final to look forward to based on the performances of those first couple of heats. And heat 3 is also underway back down the course. And we have in lane number 2, UTS, Olivia Bartram, coached by Hallie Chapman and Alex Field. Lane 3 is Commercial Rowing Club from Brisbane, Mary Wex, coached by Charles Green. In lane number 4, Canberra Rowing Club, Cara Greskoviak. In lane number 5, from the University of Queensland and the Queensland Academy of Sport, Ria Thompson. In lane number 6, from Sydney University and the National Training Centre, Georgie Gleeson. And from North Eskin, Tasmania, in station number 7, Sarah Ashland, coached by Trevor Barrett and Brendan Long.
Yeah, and it's Canberra Rowing Club's Cara Greskoviak and the University of Queensland's Ria Thompson, who have the early lead at the moment as they're coming up towards the around the 1,000 metre mark at the moment. Cara sort of taking a couple of years, she was in the Australian team back in 2019, taking a couple of years, I won't say off, but still rowing. But still very, very quick. Second at the Small Boats Championship a couple of weeks ago. So still very quick in that single scull.
Yeah, that's right. And certainly an intense racer, and does very, very well. She's won at Women's Henley before, and a very, very talented sculler there in lane at number 4 alongside of Ria Thompson, Olympic bronze medalist from the women's quad. And it is those two that are shining out here in heat number 3 of the women's elite single scull.
And then that battle for third place to get through, the third person through to tomorrow's A final, does look to be Sydney University's Georgie Gleeson, who's sitting in third place at the moment, but also being pushed a little bit there over on the far side by Olivia Bartram over from UTS. So again, it's going to be an interesting battle for the minor placings for the top 3 as they come up to the 1750 metre mark.
Yeah, good effort from Olivia Bartram, who has been working tirelessly this week. It's probably been about a 100-hour work week for her in setting up. She's the events and volunteer manager for Rowing New South Wales, and certainly hasn't had a lot of time in the boat this week, a lot of time setting up this venue for the New South Wales State Championships, and great to see her putting her good performance out there over on the far side of the course in this quality field of the women's elite single.
Takes a lot of hands to be able to make a regatta like this.
Yeah,
you know, I've seen the draws version 6 in the end.
Yeah, and may even increase from that. Who knows? So, yeah, it's
once we get the finals and
the draws for those come through. Yep, it'll certainly it's a pretty full boat park out there, and you sort of great to see people coming from all around the country to compete here at the New South Wales State Championships, and a great competition at the head of this field with Greskoviak and Ria Thompson. These are the top 2. Ria Thompson has her bow in front, and Greskoviak right there with her, and these two certainly aren't just paddling home, content with qualifying. Looks like they're trying to fight this one out to the death.
Look, Cara Greskoviak is one of those athletes that is very hard to beat. She will absolutely fight tooth and nail. But it does look as though Ria Thompson is just starting to pull ahead now as they're up around the 1,800 metre mark. It's about a boat length between Ria Thompson and Cara Greskoviak. You can really see Ria Thompson just upping that rate. Georgie Gleeson from Sydney University and the National Training Centre sitting comfortably in third place at the moment. We can see Olivia Bartram over in lane 2 from UTS. Just starting to up her rate a bit, but I think there might just be a little bit too far between 4th and 3rd at the moment as they come up towards the finish line.
Yeah, so in the end it looks like that margin creeping out to a couple of lengths for Ria Thompson as she approaches the line. And fighting all the way to the finish line. And she will take out heat number 3 of the Championship Women's Elite Single Scull. And to join her in tomorrow's morning's A final, Cara Greskoviak of Canberra Rowing Club and Georgie Gleeson of Sydney University in the National Training Centre. They're the top 3, and the rest will go through to the B final, headed by Olivia Bartram of UTS Haberfield Rowing Club and Sarah Ashland of North Esk. And in 6th and final place will be Mary Wex of Commercial Rowing Club in Brisbane.
So that was the final heat for the Championship Women's Elite Single Scull event. Heading on now to race number 4, it's the Championship Men's Elite Single Scull. Heat number 1, first 3 through to the A final, 4th, 5th and 6th through to the B final, and the rest are eliminated. In lane 2 from Mercantile, it's Joel Kane, coached by Michael McKay. In lane 3 from Banks, James Meads, coached by Thomas Krieber. In lane 4 from Adelaide Rowing Club and the National Training Centre, Alexander Hill. In lane 5 from Sydney University and the National Training Centre, David Bartolo. In lane 6 from Tamar, it is Henry Yule, coached by Andrew Hull and Brendan Long. In lane 7 from Melbourne University, Kane Grant, coached by Matthew Ryan. And in lane 8 from Melbourne University and the National Training Centre, Simon Keenan.
So there are some big hombres in this field. Kane Grant, a mountain of a man in lane at number 7. Simon Keenan also the same, one of about 10 people that have broken 5 minutes 40 on the 2K erg. He was due to race in the pair with Nick Lavery, and Lavery had to withdraw through illness or injury, and so Keenan is back in the single scull, and looks like he's in about 4th or so position here, but no surprise to see that the lead is coming from the 3rd lane from the far side of the course. Alex Hill from Adelaide Rowing Club in the National Training Centre leading this one out.
Yeah, look, there might be some physically big men, but the biggest name is Alexander Hill. You know, 3-time President's Cup winner in the interstate event for South Australia. Just an amazing rower, and as you say, just absolutely no surprise as they come up towards the 1500 that he's got the leads ahead of David Bartolo from Sydney University and the National Training Centre. Simon Keenan over on the far side, also sitting in 4th, as is Tamar's Henry Yule.
Yeah, so good performance from Simon Keenan. He spent some time over at Yale University and studied and got a degree over there, and doing a good performance here in the single scull, only having a late switch this week to that boat, and up against some people that spend a fair bit more time in the single, such as Henry Yule of Tamar Rowing Club, the very talented young Tasmanian. And over on the towards the far side of the course, Joel Kane of Mercantile putting in a good effort here and trying to grab one of those top 3 spots to go through to the A final.
But approaching the 1750 metre mark, it is Alexander Hill in the lead. He's got clear water between himself and David Bartolo from Sydney University, Henry Yule from Tamar, Joel Kane from Mercantile, also putting in a big effort, as is Melbourne University NTC's Simon Keenan. So Alexander Hill looking comfortable in 1st. David Bartolo sitting in 2nd at the moment, but he looks like he might just be starting to get mowed down a bit by Tamar's Henry Yule, as they come up with about 200 metres to go now.
They're certainly fighting it out, and Joel Kane's giving him a bit to think about over on the far side of the course. So I think there's going to be a chance here that one of the favoured scullers could miss out. So it's all to play for here. Only less than 100 metres to go for the leader, Alex Hill, and just over 100 metres to go for the others. And Bartolo currently in 2nd spot, and Henry Yule trying to move with him, and Joel Kane over on the far side of the course is putting in the big ones and seeing if he's able to try and pop one of these into the B final and sneak into the A final himself.
There's not much between them. Alex Hill will come through and win, but 2nd, 3rd and 4th, there's not much between the 3 of them. We've got lane 5, lane 6, it was Henry Yule who's taken 2nd place, just ahead of lane 5's David Bartolo. Joel Kane from Mercantile, a massive effort there. Unfortunately, just missing out by the looks of things. We'll wait for the official confirmation. And we do have there Alexander Hill with the win, 7:04.11. Henry Yule finishing in 2nd, then less than a second back to David Bartolo, who just qualified ahead of Joel Kane from Mercantile. So a very close race there. There was less than 2 seconds between 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Simon Keenan from Melbourne University finishing in 5th. James Meads from Banks finishing in 6th. And Kane Grant from Melbourne University in 7th, and unfortunately eliminated there. So Alexander Hill, Henry Ewell, David Barcelo to tomorrow's A final, Joel Kane, Simon Keenan and James Meads through to tomorrow's B final.
So Alex Hill 7:04, and the umpire's given that the white flag, and Hill was nearly through the bridge at the western end of the course when that white flag came up, so he was still got plenty in reserve for tomorrow's final.
Race number 5 is underway. It's Heat 2 of the men's elite single sculls. In lane 2 from Melbourne University, Tyler Mason. He's coached by Matthew Ryan. In lane 3 from North Esk, Jack Barrett, coached by Trevor Barrett and Brendan Long. In lane 4 from ANU and the National Training Centre, Caleb Antill. In lane 5 from Griffith University, Surfers Paradise, number 1, Cormac Kennedy Leverett. He's coached by Lincoln Handley. In lane 6, also from Griffith University, Surfers Paradise, Jackson Free, coached by Marcus Free. And in lane 7 from Sydney University, Devlin Walsh, and he's coached by Christopher Holliday and Thomas Larridge.
So Caleb Antill leading this one out from the ANU and the National Training Centre, Olympic bronze medalist, and alongside of him Cormac Kennedy Leverett, who's back here from the University of Washington. Things didn't quite work out, I think, as he envisaged, and he's back in Australia and teaming up with Lincoln Handley. He was a prodigious talent, Cormac Kennedy Leverett. He won under 16, under 17 New South Wales titles on this course, and continued to win titles all the way through the age categories, and now he's in the elite single scull, mixing it with the big boys here, and Caleb Antill is the one that is leading this field, and Cormac Kennedy Leverett in second spot.
Remember watching Cormac Kennedy Leverett at the 2019 Nationals in the interstate race, led out very quickly, very early on. I think he would have only been about an under 21, maybe 22 at the time, and still finished in 4th place.
Yeah, massively talented kid. Yeah.
Exactly right. But it is the ANU's Caleb Antill who has that lead here between him and Luke Letcher, of course, in the men's quad sculls that won bronze at Tokyo, half of them from the ACT.
Yes, very good effort there. And those two scullers, Antill and Cormac Kennedy Leverett, leading as they come up towards the 1500 metre mark, and Jackson Free there in 3rd spot. And then we look over towards the far side, a good tussle going on between Big Jack Barrett of North Esk and Tyler Mason of Melbourne University. And on this side of the course, Sydney University's co-president, Devlin Walsh, who was a late entry in this event, and he's seeing if he can try and keep in close contact with those two scullers on the southern stations.
Yeah, you can really just see here as they come up towards the 1750 that the heat is broken up a little bit into 2, so I don't think we'll get the excitement for qualifying for the A final from this one. Caleb Antill from ANU in the National Training Centre. He's got about a boat length ahead of Cormac Kennedy Leverett, and then back a little bit further to Jackson Free. So you would expect to be 1, 2, 3, but also quite competitive between Tyler Mason of Melbourne University, Jack Barrett of North Esk, and Devlin Walsh from Sydney University. And they'll be battling it out 4 positions in that B final.
Yeah, so still a good ranking position to fight out for in tomorrow's B final, should you not make it through to the A final. And Stuart mentioned qualification looking very much assured here for the race leader from the National Training Centre and the Australian National University Boat Club. It's Caleb Antill.
And we're just seeing now Tyler Mason from Melbourne University. He's released the handbrake and he is absolutely flying. He's probably about a boat length back to Jackson Free, and he may well start to come through. So Caleb Antill's got a boat length over Cormac Kennedy Leverett. Those two are looking good. They'll be able to make it through and qualify for the A final. Tyler Mason from Melbourne University is giving it a red hot go at the moment. You can just see there Jackson Free from Griffith University Surfers Paradise has awoken to the danger and just upped his rate a little bit. But it will be the ANU's Caleb Antill, first place in Heat 2 of the men's elite single sculls. Cormac Kennedy Leverett finishing in 2nd. Jackson Free in the end able to hold off Tyler Mason's efforts to qualify for the A final as well. Tyler Mason finishing in 4th place, and then back a little bit further to Jack Barrett from North Esk and Devlin Walsh from Sydney University.
Yeah, so unofficial time 7:06.99 for Caleb Antill, and he just paddles away and And look forward to tomorrow's A final as we have heat number 3 back down the course as the umpire has cleared heat number 2. And in heat 3 we have in lane number 2 from Buckingham in Tasmania, Joseph Wilson. In lane 3 from UTS Haberfield, Oscar Williams, coached by Alex Field and Hallie Chapman. In lane 4, Sydney University National Training Centre, Jack Hargraves. And in lane 5 from West Australian Rowing Club in the National Training Centre, Jack Cleary. Harry Glacken from Capital Lakes and the ACT High Performance Program is in lane 6. And in lane 7 from Mercantile in Melbourne, Tom Davidson, coached by William Legg.
Coming up towards the 1,000-metre mark, and it is Jack Cleary who looks to have an early lead. He's been matched pretty well by Jack Hargraves, so the two National Training Centre athletes with that early lead. Then it'll be between Oscar Williams from UTS and Harry Glacken from Capital Lakes down in the ACT, who look to be battling it out for 3rd place. But also too, Joseph Wilson there over in lane 2 from Bucks, also not without a shot as they pass the 1,000-metre mark.
Yeah, so going stroke for stroke, Hargraves and Cleary, the two Jacks there in lanes 4 and 5. And Cleary, not a big guy, a Olympic bronze medalist from the men's quad, mixing it with Olympic gold medalist in the men's forward, and Jack Hargraves. And so Cleary, it was an interesting 5-year cycle for him. He came back from Cal Berkeley and got his degree there and spent a fair bit of the 5-year cycle injured, and came good at the right time and was an invaluable member of that quad scull that claimed the Olympic bronze medal. And he looks like he's still in good form here as him and Hargraves are leading this field up in this 3rd 500 metres.
Yeah, we are starting to see a lot of Australian rowers head over to the US for that college system. You know, a chance to obviously experience something new, highly competitive rowing, and you know, so it's, and I think Rowing Australia now has someone that works full time, you know, looking at those athletes and keeping track of their results. Yeah,
John Bowes in that role, and keeping in touch with the athletes that are overseas. John, a very resourceful guy, and having previously held posts at Sydney Rowing Club and St Joseph's Nudgee College. So it's Hargraves just starting to put his bow in front in this 3rd 500 metres from Jack Cleary of West Australian Rowing Club in the National Training Centre.
Yeah, Harry Glacken looking like he's sitting in 3rd place at the moment, just ahead of Joseph Wilson from Bucks over in lane 2, and then back a little bit further, Oscar Williams from UTS and Tom Davidson from Mercantile in lane 7 as they pass the 1,500 metre mark. Jack Hargraves, Sydney University in the National Training Centre. He has the lead, a couple of boat lengths ahead of Jack Cleary from the West Australian Rowing Club and the NTC. Back a little bit to Harry Glacken, who is being pushed by Joseph Wilson from Bucks over on the far lane.
And Oscar Williams still putting plenty on the end of the handles there as he's in 5th position and seeing if he can try and improve on that. And then it's a bit of a gap back to Davidson of Mercantile in 6th and final place. So the top 5 spread out by about 5 or so boat lengths, with Hargraves still in the lead over Cleary, and you can see Oscar Williams putting in the big ones, and Glacken's certainly got to look over to his right to see what's happening on the far side with Joseph Wilson and Oscar Williams.
Yeah, Joseph Wilson really upping his rate as well. So, and you can just see Harry Glacken's just noticed it. He started to up his rate. So we've got about 200 metres to go. Jack Hargraves in the lead. Jack Cleary sitting nicely in 2nd, and then it's the battle for 3rd place. Who hasn't spent all their tickets? Joseph Wilson from Bucks in lane 2. He's really starting to put in some big ones, and I think he might have just pulled ahead of Harry Glacken from Capital Lakes.
Yeah, so as we come into the last 70 metres for Jack Hargraves, or a little less, he's just dropping it down a little bit and letting it run underneath him. Cleary still putting in the big ones in 2nd spot, and over on the far side, the Tasmanian Joseph Wilson as having a good tussle here with Harry Glacken. Glacken just got his bow in front, and Wilson could even pinch it on the line. Going to be very close here. I'd put my money on Harry Glacken on that one as we await the official results.
I think it might have been Harry Glacken by about a bow ball. There was, he really had to put in the big strokes towards the end there. So it was a win for Jack Hargraves, and a 7:08.01. Jack Cleary finishing in 2nd. Harry Glacken in 3rd place, 0.4 of a second ahead of Joseph Wilson. And really, you could see Joseph Wilson with about 500 metres to go, really up his rate, try and catch up to Harry Glacken. And Harry almost left it too late for that last little sprint.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't comfortable at the finish. So, but in the end, it's not so much how you get there, but if you get there into the A final. So looks like they may be the three scullers that will come through. Official results just being decided as we speak.
As we move on to race number 7, it's Heat 1 of the Championship Women's Under-23 pairs, sponsored by Bont Rowing. First, second, third and fourth going through to the A final, with the rest going through to the B final. In lane 2 from Loreto Marriotteville, it is Mariah Murray and Charlotte Illman. They're coached by Tom Dornbus. In lane 3 from the University of Queensland, Nancy Duncan Banks and Lucy Hope, and they're coached by Augustin Rodero. In lane 4 from Cand and Pine Rivers, it's Georgia Stoddard from Pine Rivers, Lukey Smith from Cand, and they're coached by Scott Rowe. In lane 5 from the University of Queensland, Alexandra Rooney, Phoebe Robertson, and they're coached by Augustin Rodero. In lane 6 from Buckingham and New Norfolk, it's Molly McCausland from New Norfolk and Isabel Higgins from Buckingham. In lane 7 from Adelaide University, Sophie Tickner and Carrie Jones. They're coached by Jurek Hasselgrove. And in lane 8 from the University of Queensland, Griffith University Surfers Paradise, it's Monique Bitsios from Griffith University and Carly Furman from University of Queensland.
And it's a fine performance here from the Buckingham-New Norfolk combination. The Tasmanians, Molly McCausland of New Norfolk and Isabel Higgins of Buckingham. They're doing very, very well in lane number 6 as they lead this field, and they lead it quite comfortably, in fact. And qualification here, top 4 through to the A final, and the rest will go to final B. Second from the far side of the course, Nancy Duncan Banks and Lucy Hope from the University of Queensland doing quite well, and alongside of them, Stoddard of Pine Rivers and Lukey Smith of Cand, and Rooney and Robinson of the University of Queensland. Gus Rodero runs a very, very good program up there at the University of Queensland. They were very dominant in the women's events at the Queensland State Championships, and they're carrying on this form here at the New South Wales State Championships, and I'm sure we'll see them do well next month when it comes to the Nationals.
Absolutely, but it is the Tasmanians that have the lead at the moment. McCausland and Higgins, as they're coming up towards the 1500 metre mark, a little bit ahead of the University of Queensland's Duncan Banks and Hope, and then back a little bit further to Stoddard and Smith from Cand and Pine Rivers. So it's Tasmania and Queensland, 1, 2, 3 at the moment.
That's right, yeah, and a good, very good performance coming from this lead boat. With a cross breeze here that you can see, and managing that quite well in lane number 6 as they continue to lead this field up towards the 1500 metre mark.
And up past the 1500 metres, it's still McCausland and Higgins who have that lead. Then we've got an interesting battle for second. Stoddard, Lukey Smith in lane 4, and then the University of Queensland's Duncan Banks and Hope. Both of those, we can just see that University of Queensland crew just starting to up and put a little bit more power in, and they're pulling a little bit further ahead. Stoddard and Smith still sitting in 3rd place at the moment, but then just behind them, it's Rooney and Robertson from the University of Queensland. Also, Adelaide University's Tickner and Jones are also sitting nicely. Back a little bit further to Bitsios and Furman from University of Queensland, Griffith University, and then Loreto Marriotteville's Mariah Murray and Charlotte Illman sitting in 7th place at the moment as they're coming up towards the 1750.
And it's good to see Adelaide University doing quite well here, currently in 5th place. They're a club that has a very, very good social culture, and it's great to see them also getting it done on the water. And Jurek Hazelgrove has done a great job there, of course, former Australian junior team coach, and done a very, very good job in developing the women's program at the Adelaide University Boat Club.
And as we go past, with about 200 metres to go, it's still the Tasmanians, McCausland and Higgins, who have the lead at the moment. Duncan Banks and Hope from the University of Queensland, they're sitting in 2nd place. They're a couple of boat lengths back. Then another boat length back into 3rd is the Cand composite of Stoddard and Smith, Cand and Pine Rivers. And then 4th place at the moment, you would say that Rooney and Robertson from the University of Queensland. probably about half a boat length ahead of Tickner and Jones from Adelaide University, who have just trying to see what they can do. But as they come up towards the finish line, it will be a start-to-finish win for that Bucks composite. Molly McCausland from New Norfolk and Isabel Higgins from Buckingham Rowing Club. They'll finish Clearwater ahead of the University of Queensland's Nancy Duncan Banks and Lucy Hope. Third place, Georgia Stoddard from Pine Rivers and Lukey Smith from Canned Rowing Club. And then for fourth place, for the final place in the final of the women's under-23 pairs, will be the University of Queensland's Alexandra Rooney and Phoebe Robertson. They finished just ahead of Adelaide University, Sophie Tickner and Carice Jones. And back a little bit further, Monique Bitsios and Carly Furman from Griffith University and the University of Queensland. And then back a little bit further to Loretto Marriotteville's Mariah Murray and Charlotte Illman.
Yeah, and a very good winning margin, just over 3 boat lengths there. So good win to McCausland and Higgins, New Norfolk and Buckingham in that women's under-23 pair. First heat sponsored by Bont Rowing. And heat number 2 starting to make their way up towards the 1,000-metre mark. The field that we have, Adelaide University in lane 2, Jemima Richter and Cleo Wilson, coached by Uric Hazelgrove. In lane 3, University of Queensland's Izzy Drew and Ellie Reddy, coached by Gus Rodero. In lane 4, Melbourne University Boat Club, Brooke Doolan, Sarah D. Uray, coached by Mitchell Nelson and Edward Fuller. Candor in lane number 5, Rosie Turnbull and Jess Scott, coached by Scott Rowe. Loretto Marriotteville from Adelaide, South Australia in lane number 6, Victoria Binns and Deanna Macalino, coached by Tom Dornbos. And in lane number 7, Grace Seppelt and Claire Romaniuk of Adelaide and Adelaide University respectively, coached by Uric Hazelgrove. And in lane number 8, Lauren Graham and Eliza Gaffney from Sydney Rowing Club and Melbourne University respectively, coached by Lachlan Carter and Mitchell Nelson.
And it is that Melbourne University composite who do look to have the early lead, passing the 1,000-metre mark. They're there in lane 8, closest to the grandstands. And then there's not much between the rest of them. So at the moment, I would say that the canned crew of Rosie Turnbull and Jess Scott looking nice for second place. And then back a little bit further to the University of Queensland's Izzy Drew and Ellie Reddy, the top 3 at the moment. But nobody really dropping off the back as things stand, Owen, passing the 1,000-metre mark.
Yeah, still quite congested there in the middle of the pack in this one. The lead, though, it's the crew right in lane number 8, Lauren Graham and Eliza Gaffney, a new combination this year. Lauren Graham and Isabel Farrer was a combination last year, and Isabel Farrer taking some time out at the moment, and Lauren Graham now pairing up with Eliza Gaffney. Graham, no stranger to the Sydney National Regatta Centre. She did a junior rowing at Loretto Normanhurst, which are based out of this course in boat shed number 2. And of course with Sydney Rowing Club, you're up here pretty much every Wednesday doing training here. So very familiar water there for Lauren Graham, who's in the pair here with Eliza Gaffney of Melbourne University Boat Club.
And showing familiarity can breed success. They are in the lead at the moment, ahead of Rosie Turnbull and Jess Scott from Canned Rowing Club. And then back a little bit further, Izzy Drew and Ellie Reddy from the University of Queensland. And then in that battle for 4th position at the moment, it is between Adelaide University in lane 2, Melbourne University in lane 4, and Loretto Marriotteville in lane 6. So first 4 going through to the A final, the rest going through to the B final. Lane 8, Melbourne University composite of Lauren Graham, Eliza Gaffney sitting comfortably in the lead at the moment. But then, yeah, University of Queensland and Cannes looking good for 2nd and 3rd. Who's going to get 4th with 500, just over 300 to go?
Yeah, that's right. So Adelaide University looking pretty good over on the far side of the course as they're having that good tussle with the crew from Melbourne University, and fine performance coming from the school kids from Loretto Marriotteville. Victoria Binns, a talented junior. She was, I think, 2nd in the under-16 single scull last year, and they're doing a good job and punching well above their ages here in the under-23 pair. The school crew coached by the Dutchman Tom Doornbos, and they're currently in 6th position and got a fair bit of a gap then back to Seppelt and Romaniuk of Adelaide University in Adelaide in final place.
Just under 200 metres to go for our leaders from the Melbourne University and Sydney Rowing Club, Gaffney and Graham. 2nd place at the moment, the University of Queensland's Drew and Reddy. And then we're seeing a big run here from Adelaide University's Jemima Richter and Cleo Wilson, coached by Jurek Hasselgrove. They're putting in some big ones. They're probably about half a boat length back from that canned crew in lane 5. And it looks like that will be our first 4 going through, with Melbourne University, Loreto Marriotteville and Adelaide Uni and Adelaide making up the B final. So a win there for the Melbourne University Sydney Rowing Club, composite of Lauren Graham and Eliza Gaffney. Second place will go to University of Queensland's Izzy Drew and Ellie Reddy. In third place, it is Rosie Turnbull, Jess Scott from Canned Rowing Club. And then in fourth, also qualifying for the A final, Adelaide University's Jemima Richter and Cleo Wilson. A big finish there, putting them into tomorrow's A final. And then for the B finals, it is Melbourne University's Brooke Doolan and Sarah Diarray, who finished in 5th position. Loreto Marriotteville's Victoria Binns and Deanna Macalino finishing in 6th place, and then back a little bit further to Grace Seppelt from Adelaide and Claire Romaniuk from Adelaide University. So a good finish there for the first heat of the Championship Women's Under-23 pairs, sponsored by Bont Rowing. That was the second heat, sorry. The first heat of the men's Under-23 pairs is underway. First 4 going through to the A final, the rest going through to the B final. In lane 2 from Sydney University, it's Joshua Hewitt and Matt Smith, and they're coached by Christopher Holliday and Thomas Lowrich. In lane 3 from Canned Rowing Club, Angus McCasker and Mitch Salisbury, coached by Scott Rowe. In lane 4 from Sydney Rowing Club, Declan Glendinning and Bradley Graham. They're coached by Donovan Check and Shane Mulvaney. In lane 5 from Toowong Rowing Club, Christian Place and Jack Bowser, coached by Leo Karadimitris. In lane 6 from Ballarat City, William Gilbert and William McKechnie, coached by Grant McKechnie. And in lane 7 from Mossman Rowing Club, Nicholas Pender and Torben Ungermack. They're coached by Matthias Ungermack.
Yeah, so these Ballarat City have just got the couple of guys up here, and I think one of them's their first trip to the Sydney National Regatta Centre. They had an eventful trip up, had a tyre blowout. I think it was just, I think somewhere around near Goulburn, I think it was, and so it was a pretty long trip up from Ballarat here, and these guys are currently back in this field a little bit, but putting in a nice little performance here against a quality field that is being led by the crew from Toowong, Christian Place and Jack Bowser. And in fact, Mossman now moved right up on them. That's Nick Pender and Torben Ungermark. And a good race going on with the 3 crews over towards the far side of the course. So Josh Hewitt and Matt Smith of Sydney University are back in 5th position, and ahead of them is McCasker and Salisbury of Canned, and ahead of them is Glendinning and Graham of Sydney Rowing Club. So top 4 to go through to the A final, and 5th and 6th will go through to tomorrow's B final.
So Mossman Rowing Club, as they pass the 1500 metre mark, do have the lead at the moment ahead of Toowong Rowing Club. Then back a little bit further to Sydney, Canned, Sydney University and Ballarat City. Always an interesting thing when you have a blowout on the Hume Highway.
Yeah, never fun. So especially on a boat trailer. So yeah,
makes life. At least it's a good highway, as is the Pacific Highway now from Brisbane. It's all dual carriageway the entire way, so it makes it a little bit easier if you are carrying the trailer.
Yeah, I've had a blowout just south of Nabiac, and that wasn't fun. So yeah, certainly a lot of eventful rowing trips, and these guys from Ballarat City still having a bit of a crack here at the tail of the field in this one.
But it is Toowong Rowing Club who have the lead with 200 metres to go. They've pulled ahead of Mossman, who are still sitting in 2nd place at the moment. And then back a little bit further, Sydney Rowing Club, Candace starting to make their move, as are Sydney University. So we've got an interesting battle. First 4 going through to the A final. There's about 150 metres to go. Toowong are looking good. Mossman sitting in 2nd. Who's going to get 3rd, 4th and 5th? You'd have to say Canned and Sydney are the favourites at the moment. Sydney University not giving up with only 100 metres to go.
Yeah, and the Sydney and the Canned crews, they're still just sitting at around 30 strokes a minute, both of them. So that they're keeping Tom Lorich and Chris Holliday, coach Sydney University crew, back in 5th place. And looks like qualification is going to get sorted for them. So a win to Toowong. 2nd to Mossman. Can just have their bow in front of that yellow boat from Sydney Rowing Club. And they'll be the top 4 that progress. And then just under a length back to Sydney University Boat Club in 5th position. And Ballarat City, Gilbert and McKechnie will place 6th.
So that was heat 1 of the men's under 23 pairs. Heat number 2 of the championship men's under 23 pairs. First 4 again going through to the A final. In lane 2 from Mercantile, it's Jordan Roberts and Benjamin Whitmey, coached by Michael McKay and William Legg. In lane 3 from Sydney Rowing Club, Andy Hoffman and Max Pearce, coached by Donovan Check and Shane Mulvaney. In lane 4 from Sydney University, Kieran Raich and Nicholas Miro, coached by Christopher Holliday and Thomas Lurich. In lane 5, it is the Torrens Adelaide University crew of Jeremy Beale from Adelaide University and Thomas Johnson from Torrens. In lane 6, Canned Rowing Club, Samuel Atherton and Daniel Horsley. They're coached by Scott Rowe. And from lane 7 from Melbourne University, Tom Murray and Nicholas Vlachodimitropoulos, and they're coached by Matthew Ryan.
And it is Sydney University that is leading this field home. Kieran Riak and Nicholas Miro have got the advantage, and they have it over the crew right on this side of the course. In lane number 7, Tom Murray and Nicholas Vlachodimitropoulos. And so they're the top 2 as they start to make their way into this third 500 metres. And the others also still in the mix. Atherton and Horsley have canned. They're second from the grandstand. They're also trying to see if they can stay up with the, or in some sort of contact with the leading 2 boats. And then over on the far side of the course, Roberts and Whitmey of Mercantile having a good little tussle with Hoffman and Pearce of Sydney. And then back to Beale and Johnston of Adelaide University and Torrens in 6th position. So certainly wouldn't say anyone in particular is out of a qualification spot here as they come up to the 1250 metre mark.
Yeah, lane 7 looking pretty popular for the pairs at the moment.
Yeah, it was a good race from Mossman out of lane 7 in that last one.
A few good races coming through there. At the moment, it is Sydney University's Kieran Riak and Nicholas Miro who have the lead at the moment, but they are being pushed by Canned Rowing Club, Samuel Atherton, Daniel Horsley, and then Melbourne University's Tom Murray and Nicholas Vlachodimitropoulos over in lane 7. And then, as you say, Owen, there's not much between any of them for 4th place in that final spot in the tomorrow's A final. Possibly Mercantile's Jordan Roberts and Benjamin Whitmey with a little bit of a lead over Sydney University's Andy Hoffman and Max Pearce coming up towards the 1500 metre mark. You'd probably only say Jeremy Beale and Thomas Johnson out of the running for the A final with 500 to go.
Yeah, the third 500 wasn't kind to them. They've given up a bit of ground on the other 5 crews in this one. So it's Sydney University still leading. They've had some fine under 23 pairs in recent years. Will O'Shannessy and Marcus Britt was one, and then they had that combination with Sydney Rowing Club of Will O'Shannessy and Jackson Kench, and now a new under 23 pair that is looking prominent, Kieran Riak and Nicholas Miro, coached by Chris Holliday and the 2-time Olympian Tom Lorich. And they're still looking the goods here as they come up to the 1750 metre mark. Candor certainly got the overlap here with Melbourne University on this side of the course. And then it's a good race going on between the Sydney crew in the yellow boat and the Mercantile crew. They're good friends and rivals for the Kaiser Cup. They're over there in lane number 2. And unfortunately, there's going to be one of these crews that's going to miss out.
Yeah, there's not much between them with about 150 metres to go. It is Sydney University who have the lead and looking quite comfortable. There's about the boat length back from them through to Sydney Rowing Club, and then Canned in lane 6 just ahead of Melbourne University, and then Mercantile over in lane 2. But it's only the first 4 through to the A final. Rest are through to the B final. We've only got about 10 strokes to go. Sydney University in lane 4 will come through, will take the win. Who's going to get 2nd, 3rd and 4th? So it's a win there for Sydney University. 2nd place will go through to Cannes. 3rd will go through to Melbourne University, only about a bow ball in it. 4th place and the final spot in the A final will go to Sydney Rowing Club. Then 5th to Mercantile, and then back to the Torrens Adelaide Composite. So a win there. Kieran Riak and Nicholas Miro from Sydney University finishing ahead of Canned Rowing Club, Samuel Atherton and Daniel Horsley. And 3rd place to Tom Murray, Nicholas Vlachodimitropoulos. And then 4th and the final qualifying for tomorrow's A final goes through to Sydney Rowing Club's Andy Hoffman and Max Pearce. exciting finish there for 4th place.
Yeah,
and not much between the top 4 at all.
Great race all the way down the course, and so it certainly shows you every stroke counts here when you race over these 2,000 metres in some of these underage categories. And we now move back to the single sculling events and the Championship Women's Under-19 Single Scull, which is sponsored by the major sponsors of the regatta, Bentley's. In lane 1, Canberra, in the ACT, Imogen Lang, coached by David Framano. In lane 2, Yarra Yarra, Annika Sirotic, coached by David Orchard. In lane 3, Gippsland Grammar, Hannah Roberts. In lane 4, Yarra Yarra, Ria Werner, also coached by David Orchard. In lane 5, Griffith University Surfers Paradise, Jazz Ingle, coached by Lincoln Handley. Philippa Gray of the ANU Boat Club is in lane number 6, coached by Edwin Bean. And Talisa Note Driver of Sydney Rowing Club in lane number 7, coached by Brendan Longman and Donovan Seck. And in lane 8, Cathedral, Abigail Cox, coached by Ian Edmonds, who's moved up there recently from Loretto, Norman Hurst.
Yeah, not much between the rowers at the moment as they go up past the 500 metre mark. Looking fairly even. You'd probably say Sydney University's Talisa Knock Driver with an early lead at the moment. But first heat of the women's under-19 single sculls. They're sponsored by Bentley's. First, second and third going through to tomorrow's final, and the rest are eliminated. So we have the 3 heats for this event. And some up-and-coming youngsters coming through. And again, you know, maybe not for Paris 2024, but certainly for LA 2028, and then Brisbane 2032.
That's right, yep.
Is a massive carrot on the end of the, you know, that's for a lot of these younger rowers.
Yeah, that's right. So, 2 Olympics here in 32 years. You would, certainly wouldn't have thought that, not that long ago. So it's great to see and a great incentive for the young people in our sport to carry on and have something like that, some lofty goal to aim for. So Talisa Note Driver of Sydney Rowing Club, coached by Brendan Longman and Donovan Seck, that leads this one second out from the grandstand in this cross breeze, which at times switches to a bit of a cross tail and then a straight cross breeze. It's certainly not an overly predictable breeze here at the moment. It's sort of just pivoting around a little bit. But Talisa Note Driver is leading this one by a pretty decent margin. And then we've got the sculler over on the far side of the course, Imogen Lang, coached by David Framano, that's faring quite well. And then we move into Jazz Ingle of Griffith University Surfers Paradise in lane number 5. The Yarra Yarra scullers not doing too badly. David Orchard, who was previously at Melbourne Rowing Club and produced many, many good young scullers there. And one of them, Skylar Frobel, who you'll see racing at this regatta. And he's now taken his coaching talents just down Boathouse Drive to Yarra Yarra Rowing Club and doing a good job there.
As they're coming up towards the 1500 metre mark, it is still Talisa Knock Driver from Sydney Rowing Club who has that lead. Ahead of Imogen Lang from Canberra Rowing Club, talented young rower, one of the ACTAS athletes. Quite a good crew coming up from ACTAS, coached by Dave Framano, so it'll be interesting to see how they're all going to go over this one after making the journey up the Hume Highway. Abigail Cox from Cathedral also doing quite well at the moment. Then back a little bit further, Jazz Ingle from Griffith University Surfers Paradise, Ria Werner from Yarra Yarra, Hannah Roberts from Gippsland Grammar, Anna Sirotic from Yarra Yarra, and Pip Gray from ANU, coached by Edwin Bean. And anyone who's had anything to do with regattas for the last 20 years in the ACT would know Edwin Bean's name very well. Still helps out a lot at the regattas, setting up all the equipment, and now coaching out at ANU.
Yeah, so he's a very familiar face at regattas in the ACT and also comes up here quite regularly as well. And very much one of those people that are the lifeblood of this great sport. And he's a sculler there, Philippa Gray, in lane number 6 in the pack here, and seeing if she can be close enough to strike here for a top 3 placing. It looks like one of those top 3 placings is nearly out of the grasp of everyone in this field. Talisa Note Driver has been dominant in the first 1,650 metres of this race. And she's there in that white Filippi boat, coached by Brendan Longman, the former Western Australian turned Tasmanian, and now based at Sydney Rowing Club as development coach there, and Donovan Seck, who of course Olympic medalist and is head coach of Sydney Rowing Club. And they have some very, very talented youngsters here, and Talisa Noak Driver is just getting a lot of run with each stroke, and great position to be in. You can look straight back down over the stern of your boat, and out of your peripheral vision you can see pretty much all the other scullers in the field, with the exception of Imogen Lang of Canberra Rowing Club over on the far side of the course.
Yeah, look, it's been a really good row from Canberra Rowing Club's Imogen Lang, over on, as you say, over on that far side in lane 1, but hasn't let that bother her. She's a long way ahead of everyone other than Talisa Noak Driver. So Talisa Noak Driver, you can just see her there, very much under control. Looking out to her right, just seeing where Imogen Lang is. Imogen still putting in some big efforts. And then Abigail Cox from Cathedral sitting in third place at the moment with about 250 metres to go. She's ahead of Griffith University's Jazz Ingle, and then back to Pip Gray, and then again to Yarra Yarra's Rhea Werner, Hannah Roberts from Gippsland Grammar, and Anika Siratich from Yarra Yarra. We'll just hear the buzzer sound for Talisa Noak Driver, who takes the win, goes through to tomorrow's A-final in the women's under-19 single sculls. Second place to Canberra Rowing Club's Imogen Lang, and third place will go to Abigail Cox from Cathedral.
Yeah, so a fine win there for Talisa Noak Driver, just rating 21 strokes a minute as she crossed the line, so really unlocking her true potential there. So fourth place going to Ingle of Griffith University Surfers Paradise, and then followed home by the Australian National University Boat Club's Philippa Gray in fifth. Sixth is Werner of Yarra Yarra, then followed by Gippsland Grammar's Hannah Roberts in seventh, and eighth set to go to Anna Sirotic of Yarra Yarra Rowing Club in Melbourne.
And that was heat number 1 of the women's under-19 single scull. Heat number 2, sponsored by Bentley's, first, second and third going through to the final. The rest are eliminated. In lane 1 from Sydney Rowing Club, it's Ella Huber, coached by Brendan Longman and Donovan Seck. In lane 2 from Canberra Rowing Club, Zoe Bond. In lane 3 from Redlands, Elizabeth Holthire, coached by Lucy Mason. In lane 4 from Gippsland Grammar, Amy Hornline. In lane 5 from Mercantile, Bethany Zmack, coached by Samuel Fennessy and Michael McKay. In lane 6 from Cathedral, Sarah Scobie, coached by Ian Edmonds. In lane 7 from Kinross Rolleroy, Lucy Searle, coached by Andrew Gannon. And in lane 8 from Yarra Yarra, it's Zarek Forey, coached by David Orcutt.
A very good performance coming from Zoe Bond of Canberra Rowing Club. She's a student at Canberra Grammar School, which has recently become co-educational school in the last handful of years, I guess, Stuart, it'd be?
Yeah, I think about 5 or 6 years or so. Zoe was with Maddie Vag in the, I think she finished second to Maddie Vag at last year's Nationals in the under-19 single sculls, and then also finished second in the double sculls with Maddie behind the Pine Rivers double, and then going through to Australian selection in the for the juniors last year in the quad.
Yep, with
coached by Sarah Cook.
Yeah, with two from Kinross Walleroy, so Isabella Scammell and Freya Neville, and so very talented Zoe Bond of Canberra Rowing Club, and she's there in lane number 2, and the scullers on this side of the course is Lucy Searle, the under-17 New South Wales champion from last year, coached by Andrew Gannon, who did a tremendous job last year. It was Kinross Walleroy became the first non-Sydney school to win the Schoolgirl 8 at the New South Wales Head of the River, and Andrew Gannon and Alex Cropley were the coaches there at the Kinross program. And so done a very, very good job, and looks like the whole heap of Kinross kids in blue shirts have come down to the shoreline to give Lucy Searle plenty of support here to see that she can get a top 3 place and go through to tomorrow's final. Good race going on for third. Sarah Scobie of Cathedral, coached by Olympic bronze medalist Ian Edmonds, and Bethany Zmack from Mercantile Rowing Club. They're having a good little tussle there, and then it is back to Holtower from Redlands in lane number 3, and followed by Yarra Yarra's Kafuri in lane number 8, and then back to Ella Huber of Sydney Rowing Club in 7th position, and in 8th place is the scholar from Gippsland Grammar, Amy Hernline.
But it is Canberra Rowing Club's Zoe Bond who has a commanding lead. There's clear ball to be hit between her and Kinross Walleroy's Lucy Searle in 2nd place. So with about 100 metres to go, Zoe Bond, Canberra Rowing Club, looking very, very good to finish first in this 2nd heat of the women's under-19 single scull. Lucy Searle from Kinross Walleroy sitting nicely in 2nd place. Then an interesting battle for 3rd place. At the moment, you've got Mercantile's Bethany Zmack finish a little bit ahead of Sarah Scobie from Cathedral, and then back a little bit further to Redlands' Elizabeth Holthoyer. So a win there, Canberra Rowing Club's Zoe Bonds going through to tomorrow's A final. 2nd place will go to Lucy Searle from Kinross Walleroy. Third place from Mercantile, Bethany Zach, who's about half a boat length in and will hold on to that one to also qualify, finishing ahead of Cathedral's Sarah Scobie in 4th place, just missing out. 3rd place to Redlands' Elizabeth Holthoyer. And then back a little bit further to Yari Yara Zara Kafori, and then again to Ella Huber from Sydney Rowing Club and Gippsland Grammar's Amy Hornline. So Canberra Rowing Club, Kinross Walleroy and Mercantile all going through to tomorrow's final for the women's under-19 single sculls.
So two very dominant wins here in these first 2 heats, with Talisa Noak Driver of Sydney and Zoe Bond of Canberra Rowing Club. And we'll see what Heat 3 has in store in this event sponsored by Bentley's. In lane 1 we have Gippsland Grammar, Freya Hamilton. In lane 2, Penrith Madison Joiners, coached by Lindsay Callaghan and Charlotte Toos Cutler. The talented Sophie Malcolm of Centenary and the Queensland Academy of Sport is coached by Michael Opstelton in lane 3. And in lane 4, Ruby Gray of Yarra Yarra, coached by David Orchard. In lane 5, Elena Moran of the Australian National University Boat Club, coached by David Framano. Alexandra O'Brien of Sydney University Boat Club is in lane 6. Steffi Simon of Cathedral, coached by Ian Edmonds, is in lane number 7. And Lillian Hyde of Mossman, coached by Katie Healy, is on the grandstand side of the course in lane number 8.
And it does look to be Elena Moran from ANU ACT with an early lead at the moment, coming up past the 1,000 metre mark. Elena, unfortunately, in recent times has lost someone. Rodney Palmer, who was a long-time BRO and volunteer down in the ACT, unfortunately passed away towards the end of last year. Was a massive support for the Moran family. It was a lovely send-off down by the lake. That the rowing community, it was a massive turnout for it, both from the ACT rowing and football communities. Rodney being also a football representative, also very close apparently to selection for the Socceroos in the 1974 World Cup as a goalkeeper. So
he must have been picked by Ray Bartz. I think Ray Bartz, the prominent Newcastle goalkeeper who had a sports store up there for many years. I think he was the goalkeeper. Yeah, so Rodney Palmer was certainly a great guy and did a lot for ACT rowing. So that was very, very sad news to end a difficult 2021.
Yeah, but it is Elena Moran who has the lead at the moment in Heat 3. Although we have over there in lane 3, Sophie Malcolm from Centenary, also maybe just pulling ahead at the moment as they come up towards the 1500, then back a little bit further to Sydney University's Alexandra O'Brien, who finished 2nd at the Small Boats Championships a couple of weeks ago. So that's probably the 1, 2, 3 at the moment. They are splitting out from the rest of the pack. You've got a little bit further back to Mossman's Lillian Hyde, then back a little bit further to Madison Jones from Penrith, Gippsland Grammar's Freya Hamilton, and Cathedral's Steffi Simon.
Yeah, so Sophie Malcolm, a fine performance here, and these centre lanes are going to be full of very talented scullers tomorrow. And she leads this one and leads from the ANU sculler Elena Moran, and in 3rd spot Alexandra O'Brien of Sydney University. She's come a long way under coach Jack Hanley, and Jack Hanley has been 3rd in the lightweight scull at Nationals and a 2-time Penrith Cup medalist. He's done a very good job in junior development at Sydney University Boat Club, and Alexandra O'Brien is in that all-important 3rd spot. And top 3 going through to the final, and the rest will be eliminated. And there'll be some good scullers here that unfortunately won't progress through to the straight final in this one. Lillian Hyde has a bit of work to do for her in lane number 8 on this side of the course, and also the sculler from Penrith, Madison Joiners, has put in a good performance there, just coming through the 1800 metre mark in about 5th position.
But it is Sophie Malcolm from Centenary and the Queensland Academy of Sport with about 150 metres to go, who does have that nice lead ahead of Ollie Moran from the ANU and the ACT Academy of Sport. Back a little bit further to Alexandra O'Brien from Sydney University. So barring any catastrophes, that will be our 1, 2, 3 going through to tomorrow's final for the Championship Women's Under-19 Single Sculls. And that is going to be an exciting race. We've seen some fantastic scullers, the 3 heat winners, as we just hear, as we just see there, Sophie Malcolm, confirmation of her win. Ollie Moran takes a rest. She goes through in 2nd place ahead of Sydney University's Alexandra O'Brien. But it is going to be a very good women's under-19 single scull final tomorrow, Owen.
Yeah, that'll certainly be one of the highlights of tomorrow morning. Some very good, talented young scullers coming through, and they'll certainly be flying along in tomorrow's A final. Heading up towards the line to claim 6th position is Cathedral's Steffi Simon. Will be then followed by Ruby Gray of Yarra Yarra in 7th, and Freya Hamilton of Gippsland Grammar set to all just cross the line in one more stroke and complete the field of 8 in the 3rd heat of the Championship Women's Under-19 Single Scull, sponsored by Bentley's.
Moving on to the first heat of the Championship Men's Under-19 Single Sculls, sponsored by Bentley's. 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th going through to tomorrow's final, with the rest being eliminated. In lane 1 from Radford College, it's Will Gregory. In lane 2 from Sydney, it is Sydney Rowing Club, Finn Woodward, coached by Charlie Patterson and Brendan Longman. In lane 3 from Kinross Walleroy, it is Alec Hoskin, coached by Benjamin Watt. In lane 4 from Cathedral, Ashton Pratchett, coached by Luke Thomas and Ian Edmonds. In lane 5 from Nepean Rowing Club, Hugh Harold, coached by Daniel Waddell and Jason Waddell. In lane 6 from Cathedral, Toshiro Larson, coached by Luke Thomas and Ian Edmonds. In lane 7 from Newcastle Grammar, Patrick Stanley, coached by Amos Noon. In lane 8 from Gippsland Grammar, Curtis Wilmot. And in lane 9 from Sydney University, Oliver Klotz, coached by Christopher Holliday and Thomas Lowrich. And a full field up the course for the first time today.
Almost. Oliver Klotz scratching by the look of it. It looks like we've got lane 9 not being filled in this one. So, but still eight scullers here, and they're vying for a top 4 spot through to tomorrow's final. So over towards the far side of the course, Alec Hoskin of Kinross Walleroy, coached by Benjamin Watt, who had very good success here as a rower himself, and it's great to see him putting time back into the sport as a coach of young people. And Alec Hoskin of Kinross doing very well in lane number 3. Likewise, a sculler in lane number 7, Patrick Stanley of Newcastle Grammar School. He's also in one of those qualification spots. And also there, 2 lanes across, Hugh Harold of Nepean, coached by Daniel Waddell and Jason Waddell, who's got his big wedding day coming up this weekend. So best wishes for Jason with that. And over on the far side of the course, William Gregory from Radford College is also occupying one of those qualification spots. Finn Woodward of Sydney in 5th, and then we move back to Ashton Pratchett of Cathedral in 6th, and Toshiro Larson of Cathedral in 7th, and Curtis Wilmot of Gippsland Grammar in 8th place.
Passing the 1750 metre mark, it is Kinross Walleroy's Alec Hoskin who has the lead at the moment. A couple of boat lengths ahead of Nepean's Hugh Harold, Newcastle Grammar's Patrick Stanley and William Gregory from Radford College. Not much between the first 4, then back a little bit further to Finn Woodward from Sydney Rowing Club, and then again to Ashton Pratchett from Cathedral, to Shira Larson from Cathedral and Curtis Wilmot from Gippsland Grammar. As they come up now with about 100 metres to go. Kinross Walleroy, Alec Hoskin in the lead. He's got a couple of boat lengths. Will Gregory from Radford College has made a massive effort there from lane 1. He's looking to go through in second place for tomorrow's final, and then back a little bit further again to Nepean's Hugh Harold and Patrick Stanley from Newcastle Grammar. Confirmation of the win for Alec Hoskin from Kinross Walleroy. Will Gregory from Radford College finishing in second. Third place will go to lane 5, Nepean's Hugh Harold, ahead of lane 7, Newcastle Grammar's Patrick Stanley. Coming in 5th place and just missing out on qualification through to the final, Sydney Rowing Club's Finn Woodward. And then we've got back a little bit further to lane 4, Cathedral's Ashton Pratchett, Tashira Larson from Cathedral as well, and then Curtis Wilmot from Gippsland Grammar. So a time there of 8 minutes 30.52. Easy win there for Alec Hoskin, just under 6 seconds ahead of second place's William Gregory from Radford College. And I think Will was only a late entry.
I'm not sure on that one. Yeah, there's certainly been a lot of late entries and things like that, and crew changes. I've been processing those at ungodly hours over the course of the week. And yeah, great to see Radford College doing quite well. Had a very successful season last year, as we mentioned earlier. And back down the course, we have heat number 2 of the men's under-19 single scull. From Northern Beaches Secondary College, Zane McGregor, coached by Isaac Shepherd and Kieran Kabelki. In lane 2, from Griffith University Surfers Paradise, Callum McClure, coached by Lincoln Handley. Matthew Thompson of Gippsland Grammar goes out of lane number 3. Isaiah Chandler of Port Macquarie, coached by Emma Molinar and Barnabas Bean. He's in lane number 4. In lane 5, we have Regan Farley of Gippsland Grammar. Joshua Nalder of Cathedral is in lane number 6, coached by Luke Thomas and Ian Edmonds. Evan Lloyd of Mossman is a scratching out of lane number 7, and we have Mika Talbot of Cathedral in lane 8, coached by Luke Thomas and Ian Edmonds, and Adam Holland of Scotch College in Adelaide, coached by James Seppelt, and Andre Pistotnik is in lane number 9 on this side of the course.
And we're just seeing a few dark clouds overhead towards the east. I think they're due to hit just after racing finishes. That would be lovely.
Would be ideal, yeah, but certainly make sure in the boat park you've got your boats tied down. I saw, I think it was a Kinross single earlier on today, got blown off its slings onto another of their boats, and a couple of tents ended up in the tree line there at around the 1800 metre mark. So please ensure that you do secure anything that can get picked up, because yeah, when a storm comes through here, you know about it.
Absolutely. The 2020 New South Wales Championships, I think, was the one you expected Noah's Ark to come down with 2 of every animal.
Yeah,
it was
that's right.
That was wet and windy.
Yeah, I think there was 10 inches of rain that day, so yeah, it was a pretty crazy time.
Up past the 1500 metre mark, and it is Scotch College's Adam Holland who has the lead at the moment, and he's ahead of Mika Talbot from Cathedral Rowing Club. And then back a little bit further, it's an interesting battle in for that 3rd and 4th positions. You have Northern Beaches Secondary, Zane McGregor, sitting over there in lane 1, ahead of Griffith University Surfers Paradise's Callum McClure. So they're probably sitting in 2nd and 3rd at the moment as they're passing the 1500s. Then you've got back again Joshua Nalder from Cathedral. Then over in lane 3, Gippsland Grammar's Matthew Thompson, Port Macquarie's Isaiah Chandler, and Regan Farley from Gippsland Grammar. As they're coming up towards the 1750 metre mark, it's still Adam Holland from Scotch College, Adelaide, in the lead at the moment, and again looking quite comfortable ahead of Cathedral's Mika Talbot and Zane McGregor from Northern Beaches Secondary.
Yeah, Holland there at just 28 strokes a minute and controlling this race quite comfortably. And Cathedral's Mika Talbot, coached by Luke Thomas and Ian Edmonds, there in 2nd place. And Stefan Muhlenberg recently retired up there at Cathedral. And they've been great supporters of this regatta for many years. It's about a 22-hour drive down here. That's without a boat trailer. So certainly a long old trip down here to race, and certainly looks like another race coming up for Mika Talbot in 2nd place in this one. He's set to go through to tomorrow's final. Over on the far side, Zane McGregor of Northern Beaches Secondary. It's a new program that Kieran Kabelki, the former Australian team sculler, has started up. Northern Beaches Secondary College is a group of 5 schools there that come under that banner, and he operates out of a boat trailer outside of Mossman Rowing Club. And it's a very, very good program with a lot of young people rowing there at Northern Beaches Secondary College, and they do a tremendous job. But crossing the line, Adam Holland of Scotch College Adelaide has taken out the heat win. Talbot of Cathedral set to join him in tomorrow's final, and Zane McGregor of Northern Beaches Secondary set to be the 3rd qualifier. And then we're going to have a good race here between Griffith University's Callum McClure and Cathedral's Joshua Nalder. Nalder's having a look around this side of the course on every stroke. He's almost got his blade in the next lane, and he may even collect a couple of buoys on the way to the finish line, and that could play into the hands of Callum McClure of Griffith University Surfers Paradise, that's having the occasional glance, not just looking out of the boat every single stroke. And Callum McClure will pinch that 4th spot ahead of Nalder of Cathedral in 5th, Gippsland Grammar 6th, with Matthew Thompson, Chandler of Port Macquarie 7th, and Regan Farley of Gippsland Grammar will complete a field of 8 in the 2nd and final heat of the men's under-19 single scull.
Moving on to the women's under-21 single scull, the first heat, 1st, 2nd and 3rd going through to the A final, 4th, 5th and 6th going through to the B final. There's scratching in lane 2 from Brisbane and GPS. In lane 3 from Melbourne University, Lucy de Glaria Cade, coached by Mitchell Nelson and Edward Fuller. In lane 4 from Sydney Rowing Club, Evie Thompson, coached by Lachlan Carter and Donovan Seck. In lane 5 from Melbourne University, Meg Cartwright, coached by Mitchell Nelson. In lane 6 from Griffith University Surfers Paradise, it's Olivia Cook, coached by Lincoln Handley. In lane 7 from Sydney University, Grace Turner, coached by Alfie Young and Jack Hanley. And in lane 8 from Mercantile, it's Amy Baker, and she's coached by Samuel Fennessy and Alistair Matthews.
So a couple of good performances here coming from 2 universities that have a great rivalry in the Australian boat race. That's Melbourne University's Meg Cartwright and Sydney University's Grace Turner. So they're the 2 scullers that are shining out here in this first heat of the women's under-21 single with 3 heats. So top 3 of each will go through to the A final, and then 4th, 5th and 6th through to final B.
And Grace Turner, formerly of Canberra Girls Grammar under Kaz Pipers. They've had some very talented crews coming through Girls Grammar in the last few years. So Grace, one of those ones that's moved up to Sydney and continue with their rowing on there.
Yeah, they've had some very good quads at Canberra Girls Grammar. They had a sort of a purple patch there about 3 or 4 years where they were very dominant in their quad sculling events, and yeah, great to see Grace Turner continuing on there under the tutelage of Alfie Young at Sydney University Boat Club. And there's the sculler from Centenary, Jessica Malcolm. It's also very well placed here in a top 3 position. And there's a bit of pressure now on, my apologies, a bit of pressure, that is Evie Thompson, my apologies, of Sydney Rowing Club in 3rd spot, and then back to Meg Cartwright, Olivia Cook of Griffith University Surfers Paradise in 4th spot, and then Lucy de Glaria Cade of Melbourne University over on the far side, and she's having a tussle with Mercantile's Amy Baker on the near side.
But it is Grace Turner from Sydney University in the lead at the moment, battling it out with Melbourne University's Meg Cartwright. Sydney versus Melbourne, how often have we heard that in sport?
Yeah, that's right, and these 2 are going to have a good tussle all the way to the finish line and get a chance to do it all again tomorrow in the A final by the looks of it.
Evie Thompson from Sydney Rowing Club sitting in 3rd place at the moment. So that's the first 3, and then the 4th, 5th and 6th going through to the B final. Just to confirm, Owen, some events we do have the B finals in, and that's to help the national selectors.
Yeah, that's right. So given an opportunity for that, it does, can get a bit tight for scheduling. They're pretty long days. Tomorrow I think it's 5:30 finish, and Sunday's about a 4:38 finish or something like that. So where we can give the opportunities to people for their selection events, we try to. So
fit it in as best as possible.
Yeah, that's right. And always certainly a lot of requests at these regattas to accommodate things.
It's like doing Tetris or Sudoku sometimes. It's trying to get those pieces to fit in
where they go, yeah,
as best they can. As they pass the 1750 metre mark, Grace Turner and Meg Cartwright are in the lead at the moment. I'd say Meg Cartwright from Melbourne University just taking the lead a little bit. Evie Thompson from Sydney Rowing Club also finishing quite strongly at the moment. So that's the 1, 2, 3 that goes through to tomorrow's A final. Then back a little bit further to Griffith University's Olivia Cook, and then to Melbourne University's Lucy Deglaria-Cade and Amy Baker from Mercantile. But now, with about 100 metres to go, Melbourne University's Meg Cartwright's taken the lead from Grace Turner. She's looking out to her right, but don't know that she'll be able to get past Sydney Rowing Club's Evie Thompson sitting in third. But there's not much between. Grace Turner, big finish coming up here. She's moved back ahead of Meg Cartwright and she'll take the win. So it's a win there for Grace Turner. I thought that Meg Cartwright might have had it there, but big finish from Grace Turner, taking the win in the first heat of the women's under-21 single sculls. Meg Cartwright finishing in second, third place to Evie Thompson. Those three women going through to tomorrow's A final. And then Griffith University Surfers Paradise's Olivia Cook finishing in fourth, ahead of Lucy Deglaria-Cade from Melbourne University and Amy Baker from Mercantile. And a strong finish there. It looked like Grace was maybe just taking a little bit easy towards the finish, but strong last 50 metres.
Yeah, I think we'll see a few fireworks in tomorrow's A final, and yeah, it didn't look like they were sprinting it right out there, just getting some decent strokes in at about sort of 28, 30 strokes a minute. And we now move up the course for heat number 2, and we have Danica Free, coached by Duncan Free for Griffith University Surfers Paradise in lane number 2. Olivia Rosea of Melbourne University Boat Club is in lane number 3. Centenary's Jessica Malcolm in lane 4. Mercantile's Claudia Clements in 5. Sophia Whiteman of Sydney University in lane 6. Laura Cypher of Sydney in lane 7, and Sophie Barr of Adelaide University and the South Australian Sports Institute in lane number 8.
And it does look to be Sophia Whiteman from Sydney University who has that early lead, but there's not much between our first few. So Sophia Whiteman in the lead, Jessica Malcolm from Centenary looking like she's sitting in second place at the moment as well. And then back a little bit to Griffith University Surfers Paradise's Danica Free. But with about 750 metres to go, I wouldn't be game to call first, second and third at all. It's a very even race. Also on the far side, Sophie Barr from Adelaide University and the South Australian Institute of Sports Institute, Sydney Rowing Club's Laura Cypher doing quite well as well.
So Cypher's moved down here from formerly a student at Rockhampton Grammar School, and it's a beautiful venue up there on the Fitzroy River. It was used by the Australian team as a pre-departure campsite prior to going to the Tokyo Olympic Games, and Laura Cypher joins her sister Grace at Sydney Rowing Club, both coached by Lachlan Carter and Donovan Seck. But in this one we've got 6 scullers here, and it's the top 6 will go through to a final tomorrow. It's just whether it's going to be an A or a B final. Top 3 to the A final, 4, 5, 6 through to the B final, and the only sculler that seemingly won't have a shot at progressing through is Claudia Clements of Mercantile. So 6 scullers here, and there's I think there's only about a boat length separating first through to 6. There's a great race going on here as they make their way through the 1500 metre mark.
Yeah, Sophia Whiteman from Sydney University has the lead at the moment, but as Owen says, it is anyone's race. Laura Cypher from Sydney Rowing Club probably sitting in second, just ahead of Jessica Malcolm from Centenary, Olivia Rosea from Melbourne University, Danica Free from Griffith University Surfers Paradise, Sophie Barr from Adelaide University, maybe just a little bit off the pace at the moment, as we just see some big moves coming up from a few of the rowers. Laura Cypher looks to have pulled out a little bit further ahead. Danica Free also putting in some big moves. We're coming up towards 1750, and we still cannot tell you first, second and third. It is going to be an exciting finish.
And the only one that's sort of started to drop back is out of this bunch of 6, Sophie Barr of Adelaide University and the South Australian Sports Institute. So Sort of starting to whittle them down into 5 now, but it's just the top 3 to go through, and Danica Free in the red colours of Griffith University Surfers Paradise over on the far side of the course is going along very, very strongly, and Laura Cypher's had a very good back end of this one. She's moved ahead of Whiteman of Sydney University, and they have a good tussle with Melbourne University's Livia Rosea. Centenary's Jessica Malcolm is going pretty much stroke for stroke with Whiteman of Sydney University. So Free over on the far side, and Cypher in lane number 7 in the rear-winged Hudson Shell that are fighting it out, and some big strokes coming now from Rosea of Melbourne University. So she's certainly digging deep in this one, and likewise Whiteman of Sydney University seeing if she can mount a final challenge in this one. She's been in the mix for most of this race, and seeing if she can grab a spot in this A final. So Cypher of Sydney Rowing Club's going to claim this one. Melbourne University's Rosea second, and very, very close there for third between Whiteman of Sydney University and Free of Griffith University Surfers Paradise. We'll await official results on that to see who progresses through to the A final.
Just to give a bit of an idea there, Owen, there was less than 2 seconds between first and fourth.
Yeah.
That was a very, very tight finish, but unfortunately only the first 3 going through. Unofficial results, Laura Cypher with the win, Livia Rosea for second place, Sophia Whiteman from Sydney University finishing in third, and Danica Free from Griffith University Surfers Paradise in fourth. Looking like she'll just miss out on the A final there with the unofficial results. Jessica Malcolm from Centenary finishing in 5th place, ahead of Sophie Barr from Adelaide University and Claudia Clements from Mercantile. An exciting finish there for heat number 2 of the women's under-21 single sculls, sponsored by Sykes Racing. Heat number 3 is underway in lane 2 from Griffith University Surfers Paradise. It's Olivia Georgopoulos, coached by Lincoln Handley. In lane 3 from Sydney University, it's Zoe McKellar, coached by Alfie Young. In lane 4 from Melbourne University, Izzy Petruni, coached by Mitchell Nelson and Edward Fuller. In lane 5 from Nepean Rowing Club, Edie Brown, coached by Daniel and Jason Waddell. In lane 6 from Sydney Rowing Club, Lily Gavin, coached by Lachlan Carter and Donovan Seck. In lane 7 from ANU ACT Academy of Sport, Lizzie Gregory, coached by Dave Romano. And in lane 8 from North Esk, Lindsay Calvert, coached by Trevor Barrett and Brendan Long.
Yeah, it doesn't look like we have Zoe McKellar of Sydney University in this one, so it looks like we're down to a field of 6. So actually it is confirmed as a scratching. So field of 6 here, top half will go through to the A final and the bottom half through to the B final. And over on the far side, Olivia Georgopoulos, coached by Lincoln Handley, is faring very, very well indeed. And then we have a trio of scullers on this side, Calvert of North Esk, Gregory of ANU, and Lily Gavin of Sydney. Good race with Izzy Petruni of Melbourne University, and Edie Brown, who's only in about her second or third year of rowing for the Nepean Rowing Club, is putting in a decent performance there in 6th position at the tail of this field in race 18, the third heat of the women's under-21 single scull, sponsored by Sykes Racing.
Coming up towards the 1500 metre mark, it is Griffith University Surfers Paradise's Olivia Georgopoulos, who has got that lead at the moment with 500 metres to go. Then a good battle. It's Calvert from North Esk, Gregory from ANU, Gavin from Sydney Rowing Club, battling it out for second and third to go through to tomorrow's A final. 4th, 5th and 6th going through to the B final. And it does look to be Lindsay Calvert from North Esk and Lizzie Gregory from ANU that are sitting in second and third at the moment. But we have seen some big finishes come through in this last 500 metres throughout the day, and they will have to be careful to make sure that they don't give Edie Brown, Izzy Petroni from Melbourne University and Lily Gavin from Sydney Rowing Club a chance to come through and pinch that A final spot.
Yeah, that's right. You can sort of make sure you don't give them a sniff of it and keep it under control, and otherwise it can start to get into a bit of a scrap, and that's when the bad strokes comes out and it sort of becomes a cascading effect. But Olivia Georgopoulos clear in this one, ahead of the 2 scullers on this side, Calvert and Gregory of North Esk and the Australian National University Boat Club respectively. And Lily Gavin very talented young junior that started off her rowing at Penrith Rowing Club, and she's now at Sydney Rowing Club, and currently in 4th spot ahead of Batruni of Melbourne University and Edie Brown of Nepean in 6th place.
With 200 metres to go, it is Olivia Georgilopoulos, coached by Lincoln Handley, who does look to have this one up. And then it's still a nice battle for 2nd and 3rd between Lindsay Calvert from North Esk and Lizzie Gregory from ANU's ACT Academy of Sport. Lizzie Gregory, one of the many good scullers to come out of Radford in recent years. Started by Luke Letcher, I guess, back a few years ago.
Yeah, she's done a very good quad scull they had in schoolgirl quad a few years ago. I think that was part of that crew that led for the schoolgirl quad here at the Nationals and got rowed through by Wrighton Girls, one of the great sculling crews that we see from that great school in Melbourne. But over on the far side, Georgilopoulos of Griffith University Surfers Paradise has just another couple of strokes to go, and she will cross and take out the 3rd and final heat of the women's under 21 single scull. And is Elizabeth Gregory of ANU at only about a metre ahead of Lindsay Calvert of North Esk. They're the qualifiers for the A final, and 4th goes to Batruni of Melbourne University, 5th to Gavin of Sydney, and Brown of Nepean Rowing Club will play 6th, and that will conclude the heats of the women's under 21 single scull, sponsored by Sykes Racing.
Moving on to the first heat of the men's under 21 single sculls, also sponsored by Sykes Racing. 1st, 2nd and 3rd going through to the A final, 4th, 5th and 6th going through to the B final. In lane 1 from Sydney Rowing Club, it's William Boag, coached by Donovan Seck and Shane Mulvaney. In lane 2 from Nepean Rowing Club, Miles Harold, coached by Daniel and Jason Waddell. In lane 3 from Toowong Rowing Club, Darcy Watter. In lane 4 from Mossman, Kyle Brown, coached by Matthias Ungermack. In lane 5 from University of Queensland, it's Noah Roseman, coached by Michael Russell. In lane 6 from Sydney Rowing Club, William Delaney, coached by Donovan Seck and Shane Mulvaney. And in lane 8 from Melbourne University, Wesley Hudson, coached by Matthew Ryan. As we just see them coming up past the 1250 metre mark, and it does look to be Miles Harold from Nepean who's doing quite well at the moment. Also up level with him, William Delaney from Sydney Rowing Club and Noah Roseman from University of Queensland. So first 3 going through to the A final, and we've got about 4 scullers, Owen, that are sitting in those places. So all 4 of them with a chance. Back a little bit further then to Wesley Hudson from Melbourne University over in lane 8, and then Kyle Brown from Mossman Rowing Club in lane 4, probably the only 2, and William Boag from Sydney Rowing Club, the only 3 that you would say out of a chance of the A final at this point.
Yeah, that's right. It looks like the pace is just looking a little too hot for them as we start to make our way through the 1500 metre mark. And it is the sculler from Nepean Rowing Club, Miles Harold, a very, very talented youngster, and great coaching there from Daniel Waddell and Jason Waddell. And this event, a selection event for the New South Wales state team. And William Delaney of Sydney also putting in a good performance. A few of those Sydney scullers missed their start at the small boats regatta in what was a pretty embarrassing setup there. And it's great to see them getting the opportunity here to put their performance down for their state team selectors. Toowong's Darcy Watter putting in a nice performance there, and he's in currently in one of those qualification spots. And then he's back to University of Queensland's Noah Roseman, and William Boag of Sydney is next, followed by Kyle Brown of Mossman, and then back to Wesley Hudson of Melbourne University, who has done a good job. He was back in the early stages of this one, and he's kind of limited the damage as the metres have rolled on by.
As they up past the 1750, and it is Nepean Rowing Club's Miles Harold in the lead at the moment, battling it out with Sydney Rowing Club's William Delaney, and then back a little bit further, Darcy Watter from Toowong. So that's the 1, 2, 3 through to tomorrow's A final. Noah Roseman from the University of Queensland leading the battle for placings for the B final. ahead of William Boag from Sydney Rowing Club, and then back to Kyle Brown from Mossman and Wesley Hudson from Melbourne University. As we just start to see a few raindrops fall here at the Sydney International Regatta Centre, but with about 50 metres to go, it's a good battle for first and second between Miles Harold from Nepean and Darcy Water from Toowong. Darcy Water from Toowong Rowing Club just pulling away at the end, winning by about half a boat length ahead of Miles Harold from Nepean. Third place in the final qualifying position will be William Delaney from Sydney Rowing Club. In fourth, going through to the B final, Noah Roseman from University of Queensland, and then back to William Boag from Sydney Rowing Club. Kyle Brown from Mossman Rowing Club, and then Melbourne University's Wesley Hudson. So that was the first heat of the men's under-21 single scull. Moving on to the second heats, again first, second and third through to the A final, fourth, fifth and sixth through to the B final. In lane 2 from Cand and the Queensland Academy of Sport, Jared Lord. In lane 3 from Mossman Rowing Club, Patrick Burke, coached by Matthias Ungermack. In lane 4 from North Esk, Laurie Dean, coached by Trevor Barrett and Brendan Long. In lane 5 from Sydney University, Hamish Danks, coached by Christopher Holliday and Thomas Lorick. In lane 6 from Griffith University, Surface Paradise, Ben Horsnell, coached by Lincoln Handley. In lane 7 from University of Queensland, Edward Miles, coached by Michael Russell. And in lane 8 from Sydney Rowing Club, Namkai Stilianu, coached by Donovan Seck and Shane Mulvaney.
And that Sydney rower just looks like he's dropped back a little bit as these scullers just start to make their way and towards the about the 1100 metre mark. And it is good performance coming from Jared Lord of Cand Rowing Club and the Queensland Academy of Sport. The Cand Club started by Kelly Armitage and Neville Dugan, whose initials provide the name of that club, and they've done a very, very good job at junior and youth development, and great to see them coming down here with an increased number of rowers. And in fact, they're starting to find that their boat trailer now is getting a little bit too small. They're starting to grow to the point where they're overfilling that trailer now to get to regatta. So a great position to be in for the growing Cand Rowing Club out of Brisbane. The sculler second from this side, Edward Miles, coached by Michael Russell from the University of Queensland, also putting in a good performance as they start to make their way up towards the 1350 metre mark. And qualification here, top 3 through to the final, and the rest will go through to the 4th, 5th and 6th will go through to the B final, and be one sculler that will be eliminated from the event. And at the moment it looks like it's a bit of a battle between Horsnell of Griffith University Surfers Paradise and Stylianu of Sydney Rowing Club, as they're battling it out for 6th place in lanes 6 and 8. Danks of Sydney University having a good race with Dean of North Esk and Horsnell of Griffith University Surfers Paradise, as I mentioned, just back in that 6th position and staying ahead of Stylianu of Sydney Rowing Club.
And we're just starting to see some of those showers just sprinkle over parts of the course at the moment. But it is Cand and the Queensland Academy of Sports. Jared Lord doing quite well at the moment. He's got an early lead over Laurie Dean from North Esk, and then back to Hamish Danks from Sydney University. And then back a little bit further, Edward Miles from University of Queensland, Sydney Rowing Club's Namkai Stilianu. But coming up towards the 1750 metre mark, Jared Lord, Cand Rowing Club in the lead at the moment. First 3 going through to the A final, 4th, 5th and 6th through to the B final. And then 7th place will unfortunately be eliminated afterwards. So with 250 metres to go, Jared Lord from Cand Rowing Club, he's got the lead. Second place between Edward Miles from the University of Queensland, Hamish Danks from Sydney University, Laurie Dean from North Esk, and then back a little bit further to Mossman's Patrick Burke, and then Ben Horsnell from Griffith University and Namkai Stilianu from Sydney Rowing Club, with 150 metres to go in this second heat of the men's under-21 single scull. Heat 2, we've got Heat 3 coming up shortly as they just make their starts.
Yes, Jared Lord dropped it down to about 26 strokes a minute and still got the boat speed to sit at the head of the field. And as I say that, he's just started to wind it up a little bit and just to try and hold off Hamish Danks of Sydney University. So Jared Lord of Camden, the Queensland Academy of Sport, will take a half a boat length win in Heat 2 over Danks of Sydney University. Very close for third place. I think Laurie Dean of North Est may have just grabbed that over Ben Horsnell of Griffith University Surfers Paradise. So the third place will go through to the A final, fourth to the B final. Burke of Mossman is fifth, sixth to Horsnell of Griffith University Surfers Paradise, and Namkai Styliano of Sydney will always place seventh.
Just half a second there between third and fourth. So it's amazing on such things, such small margins, the difference between going through to the A final and the B final. Heat number 3 is underway. Again, first, second and third through to the A final. Fourth, fifth and sixth go through to the B final. In lane 2 from Canberra Rowing Club and the ACT Academy of Sport, it's Raf Priest. He's coached by Dave Romano. In lane 3 from Sydney University, it's Sam Bristow, coached by Christopher Holliday and Thomas Lurick. In lane 4 from Torrens, Callum Deckers. In lane 5 from Banks Rowing Club, it's Mark Putter, coached by Thomas Krieber. In lane 6 from Sydney Rowing Club, Gordon Applecrin, coached by Donovan Seck and Shane Mulvaney. In lane 7 from Mercantile, Jackson Morrish, coached by Alistair Matthews and Brendan Scott. And in lane 8 from UTS, Tate Van Heemst, coached by Alex Field and Hallie Chapman. As they're coming up towards the 1250 metre mark, the visibility just starting to go down a little bit as those rain clouds pass overhead, but it does look to be Gordon Applecrin from Sydney Rowing Club with the lead, with one of the leads at the moment. Banks's Mark Putter also doing quite well there over in lane 5, and then back a little bit further, Raf Priest from Canberra Rowing Club over in lane 2, but no one really dropping off the pace at the moment. First 3 going through to the A final, second 3 going through to the B final. Everyone competitive to try and make sure that they go through to some kind of a final for tomorrow in the men's under 21 single sculls.
Yeah, so good performance from Mark Putter of Banks in the centre of the field in this one, and Raf Priest of Canberra over on the far side of the course, and Gordon Applecrin of Sydney. They're the ones that are shining out in this. Gordon Applecrin, former winner of the under-16 single scull at these championships. He originally from North Queensland and now been a Sydney Rowing Club a few years, and continuing on his good form over the full Olympic distance. Of course, the under-16 events are the race over 1,000 metres at these championships. And so they're the top 3, and a good performance coming from Sam Bristow of Sydney University as he's starting to put some pressure on Applecrin, and in fact I think he may have moved up ahead of the Sydney sculler in that race for the all-important third place and a chance to progress through to the A final.
And it is Mark Putter from Banks Rowing Club with the lead coming up towards the 1750 metre mark. Raf Priest from Canberra Rowing Club in the mix, as is Sam Bristow from Sydney University and Gordon Applecrin from Sydney Rowing Club. So that's the first 4 at the moment. Back a little bit further to Tate Van Heemst from UTS, Mercantiles, Jackson Morrish, and also Callum Deckers from Torrens. So first 3 going through. There's going to be an interesting battle for third and fourth between Sam Bristow and Gordon Applecrin. Mark Putter from Banks Rowing Club as they come up towards the 1750. He has the lead. Raf Priest from Canberra Rowing Club sitting nicely in second, and again another graduate from Canberra Grammar School. And then Sam Bristow, you would say, maybe just, it's pretty level pegging between Sam Bristow from Sydney University and Gordon Applecrin from Sydney Rowing Club for that final spot in the A final, passing the 1750.
Yeah, so we're certainly all to play for here in this last 250 metres with the Banks sculler in the renowned pink colours there. Banks out of Melbourne, Mark Putter, coached by Thomas Krieber, who's taken over the head coaching role at Banks for the last couple of seasons, and he's sculling really, really nicely and just having a bit of a glance around to see how far to go. He's now coming into the red buoys, which indicate the last 100 metres, and he leads. Raphael Priest of Canberra Rowing Club and Sydney University are doing battle for that all-important third spot. They'll do battle for the medal tally, which I'm sure you'll see on social media over the course of the next few days. And it looks like the Sydney Sculler Gordon Applecrin may come out on top in that battle. But overall, Mark Putter Banks claims Heat 3 of the men's under-21 single scull from Raphael Priest of Canberra, third Applecrin of Sydney, Bristow of Sydney University fourth, Tate Van Heemps, former glebe sculler now at UTS, is fifth, and he's followed by Deckers of Torrens in sixth and Jackson Morrish of Mercantile in seventh.
So that was the final heat of the men's under-21 single sculls. Moving on to the Championship women's under-23 single sculls. This one's sponsored by Pontoon Sports. First, second and third going through to the A final, the rest going through to tomorrow's B final. In lane 2 from Mercantile, it's Louisa Bongrain, coached by Alistair Matthews and Michael McKay. In lane 3 from the University of Queensland, Carly Furman, coached by Gus Rodero. In lane 4 from Sydney University, India Hobbs, coached by Alfie Young. In lane 5 from ANU and the ACT Academy of Sport, it's Ellie Lambden, coached by Dave Romano. In lane 6 from UTS, Laura Gawley, coached by Hallie Chapman and Alex Field. And in lane 7 from Sydney University, Emily Shepherd, coached by Alfie Young.
Yeah, so these scullers are starting to make their way up to about 850, 900 metres of this one. And it is a good race coming from Laura Goulet of UTS. And moving with her is Emily Shepherd of Sydney University as they start to make their way up towards the 1,000 metre mark. And then it is India Hobbs of Sydney University, also well placed. So Laura Goulet leading by the best part of a boat length. She's very, very good at getting out to a lead and just being able to sit ahead of her competitors and just monitor what they do and react accordingly. So third is India Hobbs of Sydney University, and then it is back to Louisa Bongrain of Mercantile, and then followed by Carly Furman of the University of Queensland. And let's see how they sit as they come through the 1,000 metre mark. So Laura Goulet, coached by Hallie Chapman and Alex Field, the former Loretto Normanhurst student that is doing very, very well here and leading in this White Philippi boat from Sydney University's Emily Shepherd.
Coming up past the 1,000 metre mark now. Owen, are there any races tomorrow or any events over the next couple of days that you're particularly looking forward to?
The small boat finals are always good. The school events have a lot of atmosphere, so it's always interesting to see how interstate schools are compared to ones in that we see here more regularly. So certainly a good program. You've got, Eric Horry racing, who's, 3-time Paralympic silver medalist, 5-time world champion. He's the Peter Michael Colby of para rowing that racing. So certainly great to see what form Eric's in. It's certainly a great program. The selection events add a lot of quality and a lot of depth. You've got Olympic gold medalist racing. So it's pretty hard to just pin down to a couple. There's certainly a lot of good racing to watch tomorrow.
And we are seeing some big entry numbers in the para events. I think it's nearly a full field in both the men's and women's single sculls. There's 7 in the para double sculls and another 4 entries in the fours as well. Yeah,
that's the most para boat racks we've installed at these championships. So 3 sets of racks for the small boats and a set of racks for the fours. So that's certainly a great problem to have when setting up the boat park, is the great growth in para rowing, and certainly good to see.
Fantastic opportunity for people with a disability to be able to jump out, and it's amazing how much rowing is able for the different types of disabilities that there are around the place as well.
Yeah, that's right. So certainly people have had different experiences in coming into the sport, and great to see them compete here on a beautiful Sydney International Regatta Centre course. So Laura Goulet, UTS, that's leading this one, and lead sitting at around about 3 boat lengths over Emily Shepherd of Sydney University. And then it's a good race going on between India Hobbs of Sydney University and Louisa Bongrain of Mercantile. Bongrain started off her rowing at Footscray City, and then she's moved over east to Mercantile right in the city of Melbourne, and seeing if she can still improve her position. It's top 4 that goes through, so these 4 are looking pretty safe. It's just in which order they cross the line, and then of course what lane they'll be in for tomorrow's final. And Furman of University of Queensland is 5th, and Lambden of ANU is in 6th place. So positions look pretty stable here for all bar perhaps 3rd and 4th. Laura Goulet out in front, and very, very strong sculler.
Looking quite comfortable for the win there with about 50 metres to go. Not much left for Laura Goulet from UTS. She'll go through and take the win in the first heat of the women's under-23 single sculls. Confirmation there. In second place from Sydney University, it is Emily Shepherd, as she just comes up towards the line now. Nice little battle for 3rd and 4th, but it does look like it's going to be lane 4, Sydney University's India Hobbs, who'll finish in 3rd place ahead of Mercantile's Louisa Bongrain. And they'll both finish ahead of Carly Furman from University of Queensland and ANU Actas's Ellie Lambden in 6th place there. So 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th. So Laura Goulet, Emily Shepherd, India Hobbs and Louisa Bongrain going through to the A final, with Carly Furman and Ellie Lambden going through to the B final in the women's under-23 single sculls. Heat number 2 is underway. We've got 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th going through to the A final, the rest going through to the B final. In lane number 2, it's Brisbane and GPS's Hannah Kenway, coached by Peter Howard. In lane 3 from the University of Queensland, it's Elizabeth Newell, coached by Gus Rodero. In lane 4 from ANU, Alora Kelly, coached by Nigel Harding. In lane 5 from Griffith University Surfers Paradise, it's Monique Bitsios, coached by Lincoln Handley. We have a scratching Maddie Vag from Sydney University in lane 6. And then in lane 7, Sydney Rowing Club's Neve Graham, coached by Lachlan Carter and Donovan Seck.
And when you see a scratching from Madeline Vag, when she hands you the withdrawal form and you're sitting down, you know about it. She's about 20 centimetres taller than me when I'm standing up alongside of her. So when you're sitting down, and you certainly know who it is handing you the form. Very tall, talented sculler. Shame she's not here in this one, but we'll sort of see how this race pans out with the University of Queensland's Elizabeth Newell, coached by Gus Rodero, doing very, very well out of lane number 3 in leading this field into the second half of this one.
Oh, and welcome to my world. I'm 5'7", and I remember my first ever regatta working with Rowing ACT, standing downhill from Tobias Ware-Candler, Sarah Cook and David Bagnall, going, maybe I need to be in a sport where they're a little shorter.
Yeah.
But the great thing is, again, that you can be a bit shorter and still get out and row.
That's right. You've just got to change how you approach it. So if you don't have those same levers, but a good race lead from the University of Queensland, Elizabeth Newell, ahead of Hannah Kenway of Brisbane and GPS, the sole Brisbane and GPS competitor at this regatta. Hannah Kenway, coached by Peter Rowdy Howard, and Ella Kelly of ANU is in 3rd spot, and then followed by Bitsios of Griffith University Surfers Paradise, and Neve Graham is there in 5th place, the younger sister of Lauren Graham, who we saw racing earlier today in the pair, and Neve Graham in 5th place in this one. And it's just top 4 through to the A final, and the rest through to the B final. The rest is just that 5th place sculler, and at the moment it looks like that may be where Neve Graham ends up.
Yeah, so Elizabeth Newell from the University of Queensland sitting nicely in the lead at the moment. As you mentioned, Owen, you only have to beat one person to make it through to the A final from this heat, with that late scratching from Maddie Vag. So our first 4 probably looking quite comfortable. Neve Graham sitting in 5th place at the moment as they come up past the 1500 metre mark. Elizabeth Newell in the lead. Hannah Kenway from Brisbane and GPS sitting in 2nd ahead of Laura Kelly from ANU, and then back to Monique Bitsios from Griffith University Surfers Paradise. The wind just looking like it might just be dying down a little bit.
Yeah, and certainly they'd be welcome to the competitors. It did pick up a little bit and turn into a cross tail, and now it's somewhat a bit more muted and more of a straight tail, if any. So, and the sculler Elizabeth Newell coached by Gus Rodero, the Argentine, that's done a very, very good job at UQ. Continues to lead from their near neighbours Brisbane and GPS in the blue and green vertical stripes, and a sculler with a boat with the red ends on it over on the far side of the course. And Kelly of the Australian National University Boat Club is there in third spot. They look very, very comfortable indeed. And Monique Bitsios of Griffith University Surfers Paradise is in fourth spot and has got a comfortable advantage, probably about nearly 4 boat lengths back to Neve Graham of Sydney Rowing Club. So qualification here looks pretty well assured for these scullers in benign conditions here at the Sydney National Regatta Centre. Elizabeth Newell of the University of Queensland continuing to hold sway in this second and final heat of the Championship Women's Under-23 Single Scull, sponsored by Pontoon Sports.
So Elizabeth Newell now with about 100 metres to go. She's got a boat length and a half over Hannah Kenway from Brisbane and GPS with that very distinctive, it looks like pink and white boat, the pink ends. Laura Kelly from ANU sitting in third place at the moment, just giving it a nice little finish towards the end there. Monique Bitsios from Griffith University Surfers Paradise in fourth, and Neve Graham from Sydney in fifth. But it will be a win for the University of Queensland's Elizabeth Newell, finishing ahead of Hannah Kenway from Brisbane and GPS. Strong finish from Laura Kelly from ANU for third place in that heat. And then Monique Bitsios from Griffith University Surfers Paradise going through in fourth. So the 1, 2, 3, 4, Newell, Kenway, Kelly and Bitsios for the A final tomorrow, and Neve Graham from Sydney Rowing Club going through to tomorrow's B final in the second heat of the women's under-23 single sculls. As we move on to the men's under-23, sponsored by Pontoon Sports. First, second and third through to the A final, fourth, fifth and sixth through to the B final. Lane 2 from Melbourne University, James Gardner, coached by Matthew Ryan. In lane 3 from Bucks, it is Lucas Wigston. In lane 4 from Sydney University, Tom Anderson. In lane 5 from Canned Rowing Club, it's Dylan Rhodes, coached by Scott Rowe. In lane 6 from Sydney Rowing Club, Harry Crouch, coached by Donovan Seck and Shane Mulvaney. In lane 7 from ANU and Actas, Nick Niels, coached by Dave Romano. And in lane 8 from Corio Bay, it's Xavier Hall-Sullivan, and he's coached by Lee Hall-Sullivan.
Yeah, so Xavier Hall-Sullivan we saw do very well at the Small Boats Regatta here just a few weeks ago. He's got a very strong third 500 metres he showed there, and he's also looking prominent as they're in that third 500 metres now. Lucas Wigston of Buckingham, second from the far side of the course, is a very, very talented junior. He's done very, very well at national championships in the single scull, and it's no surprise to see him here looking prominent. Top 3 through to the A final, rest through to the B final. And Lucas Wigston is looking very, very strong there in lane number 3 as he starts to make his way through the 1500 metre mark. So it's just 5:20 through the 1500 metre mark. So he's looking at about a time of only around about 7:10 or so, I'd say, as he gets towards the finish line. So so Lucas Wigston going along very, very well for Buckingham. Xavier Hall-Sullivan of Corio Bay from Geelong, coached by his father Lee, who's been in the Victorian Masters state team in the past, and he's having a good tussle with Harry Crouch in the blue colours of Sydney Rowing Club. There's 3 out from the grandstand, and Sydney University's Tom Anderson is also having a crack here and seeing if he can break into the top 3 and go through to the A final. That's putting some pressure on Dylan Rhodes of Canned in the red and white colours, and then back to Gardner of Melbourne University over on the far side of the course in 6th. And Nicholas Niels from the ANU is in 7th place, and we'll see him do quite well, I think, in the para race tomorrow, which will be one of the highlights of tomorrow's finals. But seeing who can qualify for this one, Lucas Wigston, certainly best placed here with just under 200 metres to go, and the finishes are starting to come from Tom Anderson in his trademark grey hat, and Harry Crouch with a big mop of hair underneath his hat, and he's starting to wind it up the former Kinross scullers at Sydney Rowing Club. And Xavier Hall-Sullivan has a bit of a look around, and you can see him just really bouncing off that foot stretcher at the front end, and seeing if he can stay ahead of this battle between, looks like, Sydney Rowing Club and Sydney University for that third and fourth. Chance to go through the A final or the B final. Wigston's dropped it off. Xavier Hall-Sullivan will come through and pinch it on the line. Lucas Wigston of Buckingham second. Harry Crouch third. Tom Anderson will go through to the B final with a fair bit of confidence after placing fourth. And Dylan Rhodes, the former Tweed head sculler, now at Cairns, is fifth. Gardner of Melbourne University sixth. And Nicholas Neils from ANU in seventh.
Strong finish there in that final. And again, not much between the first few rowers, less than 5 seconds between first and fourth. So again, 2 seconds between Harry Crouch and Tom Anderson there. So very tight finishes should make for some very good racing tomorrow in the men's under 23 single sculls. Heat 2 is underway of the under 23 single sculls with first, second and third through to the A final, fourth, fifth and sixth through to the B final. In lane 2 from Tamar, it is William Birchmore, coached by Andrew Hull and Brendan Long. In lane 3 from Commercial Rowing Club, Sam Green, coached by Charles Green. In lane 4, Canberra Rowing Club and the ACT Academy of Sports, Cormac Hayes, coached by Dave Romano. In lane 5 from Sydney Rowing Club, Maximilian Crowe, coached by Donovan Seck and Shane Mulvaney. In lane 6 from Melbourne University, Lucas Matic, coached by Matthew Ryan. And in lane 7 from Sydney University, it's Elliot Simpson, and he's coached by Christopher Holliday and Thomas Lowrick.
And Lucas Matic leading from Melbourne University, the former Nudgee sculler. And he's now coached by Matthew Ryan, Olympic silver medalist. He's done a great job down at Melbourne University. And Lucas Matic leading from Elliot Simpson and Maximilian Crowe from Sydney University and Sydney Rowing Clubs respectively. So the three scullers on this side of the course are the ones that are leading out, and it is top three that progress through to the A final, fourth, fifth and sixth, which are currently held by Cormac Hayes of Canberra, Sam Green of Commercial and William Birchmore of Tamar. Fourth, fifth and sixth placings will go through to the B final.
Coming up towards the past the 1,000 metre mark, and it is Lucas Matic who's still in the lead at the moment, ahead of Elliot Simpson from Sydney University. Then back a little bit further to Maximilian Crowe from Sydney Rowing Club. So they're our first three, and they're sitting in the lanes closest to the grandstand at the moment. But also Sam Green from Commercial and Cormac Hayes from Canberra Rowing Club. Not far behind them either, and also Tamar's William Birchmore. So I think we're going to have another interesting finish here. Battling it out for first, second and third. Fourth, fifth and sixth will go through to the B final. So everyone will get a race tomorrow. Lucas Matic from Melbourne University sitting nicely in first place at the moment as they come up towards that 1,500 metre mark. A little bit ahead of Maximilian Crowe from Sydney Rowing Club and Elliot Simpson from Sydney University. And then back a little bit further to Cormac Hayes, Sam Green and William Birchmore. Cormac Hayes came in with a bit of good form, beat Tom Perry for the first time at an ACT regatta in the men's A grade last weekend at the ANU regatta. So he has got a bit of form, but obviously there's a few things floating about that may affect form for a lot of rowers around Australia.
Yeah, I was right. Talking to some of the Sydney University coaches, and were expecting to have field 2 under 21 women's eights, and now with COVID, they weren't able to field an under 21 women's eight, so it's really decimated their program. I think Melbourne University had a big outbreak on their camp as well, so certainly hopefully the athletes' welfare's at pride of place for the coaches, and they don't rush these people back into competition too soon and let them recover from a pretty tough condition. So Lucas Matic continuing to lead. His old coach John Bowes is down here watching. He coached him at Nudgee College, and he continues to lead this one by just over 2 boat lengths from Crowe of Sydney Rowing Club, and Elliot Simpson, who's getting a reputation now for not wearing correct uniform. He wore his Joey Zudi the other week for some unknown reason, and today he's coming down in a nice white t-shirt. And he's the Sydney University scholar Elliot Simpson still in a qualification spot, but Cormac Hayes of Canberra starting to wind things up and give him something to think about here in this last sort of 15 or so strokes. And Cormac Hayes has certainly got the boat speed now to make something of it, that's for sure. Fifth is Green of Commercial, and Birchmore of Tamar is destined to finish sixth. But Maddich of Melbourne University will take this one, and Elliot Simpson has started to respond. Maximilian Crowe will claim second, Simpson third, fourth Cormac Hayes of the ACT, and he certainly gave himself a shot at that one and won't put his boat back on the rack with any doubts as to whether he should have progressed through to the A final. Fifth to Green of Commercial, and Birchmore of Tamar sixth.
Yeah, just a little bit too much to make up there for Cormac Hayes towards the end there. Needed to be a little bit closer when he made that run, but certainly some impressive boat speed over that last 250 metres. Really gave it a red hot go there. That was heat number 2 of the men's under 23 single sculls. Heat number 3 is underway, first, second and third through to the A final, and fourth, fifth and sixth through to the B final. In lane 2 from Des Moines, it's Mitch Blackmore-Cram, coached by Ross Tong and Robin Mackney. In lane 3 from UTS, Alexander Wood, coached by Alex Field and Harry Chapman. In lane 4 from Melbourne University, Felix Oliver, coached by Matthew Ryan. In lane 5 from North Esk, Rue Colley, coached by Trevor Barrett and Brendan Long. In lane 6 from Adelaide University and South Australian Sports Institute, it's Nick Blackman. And in lane 7 from Sydney Rowing Club, Torin Olsen, and he's coached by Donovan Check and Shane Mulvaney as they're coming up towards the 1,000 metre mark.
It is Torin Olsen that leads this one, and he leads it by a couple of lengths through the halfway mark. He's the son of Kirk Olsen, who was a very, very good Sydney Rowing Club scull that was always hard to beat, and Torin, who has a formidable double scull combination with Harry Crouch, who made it through from heat number 1. They're the double scull specialists. They've got a reputation for that, and looks like they're going to do battle here in the single scull final. Torin Olsen very, very well placed through that halfway mark, and moving with them, Rue Colley of North Esk, Nick Blackman of Adelaide University and Sassy. Nick Blackman formerly of Pembroke, and a very, very talented junior, big man, and he's doing quite well here in this third heat of the men's under 23 single scull. And then we move to the scullers over towards the far side. Felix Oliver of Melbourne University, Alexander Wood of UTS, and over on the far side of the course, Des Moines' Mitch Blackmore-Cram, who's doing a very, very good job. He lives in Wagga Wagga, and he gets a chance to have a paddle when he comes up to Sydney of a weekend, and does whatever training he can, and he's teamed up there with Ross Tong. He's a former school coach from St Joseph's College, and of course Robin Mackney, who's an absolutely brilliant coach, and he's doing a fine performance here with some limited on-water time. He's a tough kid, and we'll see if he can sort of sneak away into the A final here.
Another one that would know the Hume Highway very, very well.
Yeah.
That drive from Wagga. But it is Torin Olsen from Sydney Rowing Club ahead of Nick Blackman at the moment. But not much between our 6 rowers in this, the third heat of the men's under 23 single scull, as they're coming up towards the 1,500 metre mark. Torin Olsen, Sydney Rowing Club in the lead. Nick Blackman from Adelaide Uni and Sassy in second place. Then back, not much between Rue Colley from North Esk and Felix Oliver from Melbourne University, and then to Alexander Wood from UTS and Mitch Blackmore-Cram from Des Moines Rowing Club as they pass the 1,500 metre mark. But there's still anyone's game. First, second and third through to the A final, fourth, fifth and sixth through to the B final. As we just see Felix Oliver from Melbourne University moving ahead of North Esk's Rue Colley as we're coming up towards the 1,750 metre mark. And you just feel like Felix Oliver's starting to get some good boat speed, and he's starting to make a little bit of a move. I'm just wondering whether or not lanes 7, 6 and 5 spent their tickets a little bit too early, because it is giving some of these other rowers in lanes 4 and 3 a chance to come up.
Yeah, Rue Colley's coming under a big attack now. Alexander Wood of UTS, who didn't have a great small boats regatta in the single, is seeing if he can make his way through to the A final in this one, and so a lot of pressure on the North Esk sculler. It's coming from all quarters, and the early race leader Torin Olsen is now being swamped, and it is the sculler from Melbourne University, Felix Oliver, that's started to make his way towards the race lead, and Torin Olsen's really going to have to scrap it out here to make it through to the final. It looks safe at the 1,000 metre mark, and it's anything but, with about 130 metres still to cover. So Melbourne University leading, Adelaide University second, And very close here, a sprint now coming from Rue Colley, Alex Wood and Torin Olsen. He's looking across and thinking this is completely different now. He imagined it about 3 minutes ago.
So with just a couple of strokes to go, it looks to be Felix Oliver from Melbourne University. He'll come through to the win. Nick Blackman from Adelaide University in second. Big finish there from Torin Olsen from Sydney Rowing Club, ahead of ahead of Rue Colley from North Esk, Alexander Wood from UTS. And again, a very close finish, 7:11.19 for Felix Oliver. Then less than a second back to Nick Blackman in second. Torin Olsen, another second and a half behind him, and then less than a second back to Rue Colley. So Torin Olsen did quite well. As you say, looking strong at the 1,000-metre mark, very much in control, started to get overtaken, was actually pipped into fourth place, and then in that last 100 metres or so, really was able to pull it out of the fire, get through to third, get through to that A final.
Yeah, he's managed to find something there, so certainly when it was most needed. It was a very tough race there in that men's under 23 single scull third heat.
Moving along now to the first heat of the women's elite pairs. We've got in lane 2 from Sydney University and the University of Queensland. It's Madeline Williams from UQ and Eleanor Price from Sydney University. In lane 3 from Cand, it's Rosie Turnbull and Jess Scott, coached by Scott Rowe. In lane 4 from, we've got a composite, University of WA's Bronwyn Cox and Annabelle McIntyre from Fremantle, and they're also in the National Training Centre. In lane 5, also from the National Training Centre, it's Georgia Patton from West Australian Rowing Club and Georgie Rowe from UTS. In lane 6 from Mercantile, Sophie Rayner and Paige Barr, they're coached by Alistair Matthews and Michael McKay. And in lane 7 from Melbourne University and Sydney Rowing Club, it's Lauren Graham, Sydney Rowing Club, and Eliza Gaffney from Melbourne University, and they're coached by Lachlan Carter and Mitchell Nelson.
It was 100 minutes ago that we saw them start off in that under 23 pair, Graham and Gaffney, and again they're on this side of the course. And this one's new pair combinations to what we've seen. It's the reuniting of Bronwyn Cox and Annabelle McIntyre, a very good underage combination, and now reunited here as senior A's. Bronwyn Cox from the University of West Australia Boat Club and Annabelle McIntyre from Fremantle. And they're doing quite well there. You can see them on screen there in lane number 4. Annabelle McIntyre in the Cambridge blue colours of Fremantle Rowing Club and Bronwyn Cox in the bow seat, who was part of the Australian Women's 8 in Rio. Annabelle McIntyre, of course, doubled up and won the B final in the pair and won the gold medal in the 4. And you can see on screen now Georgia Patton and Georgie Rowe. And Patton from Western Australia, some very, very good athletes that came through the WACE program and are now at the National Training Centre. Of course, when Red Aleph did a very, very good job there in developing these young women at the WACE program, and now they're certainly doing a great job at the National Training Centre.
Did anyone have a voice at the end of that hour when we won the 2 golds and the 2 bronzes in the 2 quads? Because I know I was sounding a lot like Darren Lockyer after that hour.
Yeah, it was certainly a great time for Australian rowing. It was similar to what New Zealand have had at some World Championships and Olympic Games, with a whole heap of great performances coming in a very, very short period of time. So great to see, and great to see these athletes continuing on for another cycle.
Absolutely, and it does look to be Bronwyn Cox and Annabelle McIntyre out in the lead at the moment, ahead of Georgia Patton and Georgie Rowe. Madeline Williams and Eleanor Price from Sydney University and the University of Queensland are also sitting quite nicely at the moment. First 4 going through to tomorrow's A final, and then the rest going through to the B final. So we've only got the 2 heats for the women's elite pairs.
Yeah, so on screen there, Bronwyn Cox and Annabelle McIntyre in the lead, and the crew you can see behind them in the distance in lane number 2, that's Madeline Williams and Eleanor Price. They both withdrew from the women's elite single to focus on the pair, and Eleanor Price has been up here for a couple of years now from Victoria and up at Sydney University Boat Club. So she's there in the pair with University of Queensland's Madeline Williams.
but it's still Cox and McIntyre in the lead in that, well, I guess you'd call it the WA composite, one of the few WA athletes that are able to be over here at the moment, obviously based just down the road at the Women's National Training Centre. They're ahead of the UTS composite of Georgia Patton and Georgie Rowe, and then back a little bit further, Madeline Williams and Eleanor Price over in lane 2. Then back again to a little bit of a gap then to the Mercantile crew of Sophie Rayner and Paige Barr. In lane 6, the Lauren Graham from Sydney Rowing Club and Eliza Gaffney from Melbourne University. Big effort to back up from the underage pairs event, which they won the heats in. Backing it up into the Opens, and then Rosie Turnbull and Jess Scott from Canned Rowing Club. So it's still a battle though for 4th place, because that still gets you through to tomorrow's A final.
Yeah, that's right, and certainly the first position looking pretty secure here, and Bronwyn Cox and Annabelle McIntyre. Annabelle McIntyre just sets up a beautiful rhythm, and you see that boat just runs on and on and on, and they just move along so very smoothly at the head of the field, and they're out to a whopping advantage at sitting somewhere in the vicinity of about 4 or so boat lengths. And over the Patton and Rowe combination, and also the crew over on the far side of the course, Williams and Price, that is a pretty new combination, giving a very good account of themselves.
Yeah, and you really saw that. You watch a replay of the 2019 Women's Pair World Championship Women's Pair Final, and just how controlled both the Australian and the New Zealand crews were. You know, they weren't rating the highest, but they were getting the most. They had the most efficient strokes. They were getting the most out of each stroke.
Yeah, yep, yeah. So very, very nice sweep rowing from these ladies, and you can see why they are international competitors of the highest order, and it's great to see. I think last season we saw at one of these selection regattas 2 women's 8s that were international standard medalists sprinkled all throughout the boat. So great to see the depth of Australian women's rowing, particularly in sweep rowing as well.
Yep, and as we said earlier, only 3 years till Paris. Well, only 2 years now really until Paris, only the 3-year cycle around. So it's straight back on the horse and into full training, and I think this year they'll be sending over to the World Championships. It's been a couple of years since we've been able to compete in the World Championships, obviously with the COVID pandemic. So the opportunity to go and test yourself against the best in the world is, you know, going to be a massive carrot for a lot of these athletes. But still, Bronwyn Cox, Annabelle McIntyre, the Fremantle University of WA composite, they've got the lead as they pass the 1750 metre mark. Georgia Patton and Georgie Rowe from West Australian Rowing Club and UTS sitting in 2nd place at the moment. But they are being challenged and very much by the crew of Eleanor Price and Madeline Williams over there in lane 2, furthest from the grandstand. Sitting in 4th place at the moment is Lauren Graham and Eliza Gaffney. They've made up some really good ground in that second part of the race to move ahead of Mercantile, Sophie Rayner and Paige Barr, and then back a little bit further to Cairns, Rosie Turnbull and Jess Scott. But we've only got about 100 metres to go now, and it will be a start-to-finish victory for that NTC composite crew of Bronwyn Cox from the University of WA and Annabelle McIntyre from Fremantle Rowing Club. A good little battle for second at the Georgia Patton and Georgie Rowe, having to put in some big strokes to hold off that Sydney University composite. So Patton and Rowe will finish in 2nd. 3rd place will go to Madeline Williams from University of Queensland, Eleanor Price from Sydney University. 4th place will go through to Melbourne University's Eliza Gaffney and Sydney Rowing Club's Lauren Graham. So they've backed up 2A finals for that crew in both the underage and the elite women's events. Sitting in 5th place and going through to the B final will be the Mercantile crew of Sophie Rayner and Paige Barr, and then back a little bit further to the canned crew of Rosie Turnbull and Jess Scott. So that was heat number 1 of the women's elite pairs. Heat number 2 is underway. In lane 2 from the University of Queensland, Alexandra Rooney and Phoebe Robertson, and they're coached by Gus Rodero. In lane 3, it's the Melbourne University composite, Anna Kirkwood from Mercantile, Jean Mitchell from Melbourne University. They're coached by Mitchell Nelson and Alistair Matthews. In lane 4 from Melbourne University and Mercantile, it's Katrina Werry from Mercantile, Lucy Stephan from Melbourne University. In lane 5, and the NTC, sorry. In lane 5 from Swan River and Fremantle, it's Genevieve Hart from Fremantle and Jackie Swick from Swan River. In lane 6, it's the Adelaide Sydney University National Training Centre crew of Jamie Ford from Sydney University, Ella Bramwell from Adelaide. And in lane 7, it's a canned Pine Rivers composite of Georgia Stoddard from Pine Rivers and Leakey Smith from Canned Rowing Club, and they're coached by Scott Rowe and Ray Smith.
Yeah, so it's great to see the resurgence of Pine Rivers Rowing Club under Ray Smith, and they have won the it was the under-19 women's double at nationals, a club women's double at nationals, and yeah, they're doing terrific things at Lake Koowanbar at Pine Rivers Rowing Club.
It's probably about the quietest bit of water that they've got up in the Brisbane area.
Yeah,
obviously on the Brisbane River you've got the city cats flying all around. I know that Lake Corumbar's pretty chilled kind of an area.
Yeah,
family that lives up there, so yeah, no, it's a nice little stretch of water to be out on.
Yeah, so so it's good to see them doing very, very well indeed, and the crew that's doing well in this one is the crew out of lane number 4, Katrina Werry and Lucy Steffen. They doing very, very nicely indeed, and moving with them Genevieve Hart and Jackie Swick from Fremantle and Swan River, and the other National Training Centre combination of Jamie Ford and Ella Bramwell. But through the halfway mark, it is Katrina Werry in the bow seat and Lucy Steffen in the stroke seat. It wasn't that long ago they were racing down at Lake Wendouree at Ballarat against a Ballarat and Clarendon College crew, which I think is Katrina Werry's old school, and having a good race against a 4 only a couple of weeks ago, and now they're here racing in the Championship Women's Elite Pair and leading this second heat over Hart and Swick and Ford and Bramwell of Sydney University and Adelaide Rowing Clubs respectively.
Always so important to have those elite athletes then come back down and, you know, compete against and give people something to aim up towards. You know, you can't be what you can't see.
That's
you
right,
see these athletes going out doing well, and you know they come from your local area. It's a massive boost.
Yeah, for sure, and it's a very, very strong rowing city, as we all know, at Ballarat, and yeah, Katrina Werry and Lucy Steffen that are currently smoking the field in this one, in the second heat of the Championship Women's Elite Pair.
And they're just ahead of the Swan River Fremantle composite of Genevieve Hart and Jackie Swick, and then the other NTC crew of Jamie Ford and Ella Bramwell. And then possibly sitting in, so that's your first 3 at the moment, and then Anna Kirkwood and Jean Mitchell, the Melbourne University Mercantile crew, sitting in 4th place, looking for that final spot in the A final. And they're both a little bit ahead of the University of Queensland crew of Alexandra Rooney and Phoebe Robertson, and then back to the Canned Pine Rivers crew of Georgia Stoddard and Leakey Smith from Canned Rowing Club. But it's the Arrow heading down the course as they come up towards the 1500 metre mark. It's Katrina Werry and Lucy Steffen in the lead at the moment, ahead of Genevieve Hart, Jackie Swick, back to Jamie Ford and Ella Bramwell. 4th place, final spot for the A final, Anna Kirkwood and Jean Mitchell, ahead of Alexandra Rooney, Phoebe Robertson in lane 2, and Georgia Stoddard and Leakey Smith in lane 7.
So Werry and Steffen, 2 Victorians that have won Queen's Cup on multiple occasions, and Lucy Steffen out of the Olympic gold medal winning women's 4, and Katrina Werry out of the Australian women's 8. And they're still about 34 strokes a minute leading this field, ahead of the West Australians, Hart and Swick, Jamie Ford and Ella Bramwell, a new combination, and they're there in 3rd spot, and then it is back to Kirkwood and Mitchell. So Jean Mitchell, formerly Wrighton Girls, the program there headed up by Matt Wilson, and she's now continued on her rowing. I think she moved to Banks for a little bit, and now she's at Melbourne University Boat Club, and well on the way to going through to the A final in this one. But at the head of the field, as expected, the Melbourne University Mercantile combination of Katrina Werry and Lucy Steffen that have got just under 200 metres left to go.
It's looking like Victoria v WA for first place in that final tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Should be a fantastic race, that one. Steffen and Werry in the lead ahead of Hart and Swick. and then back a little bit further to Ford and Bramwell sitting in third, and then Kirkwood and Mitchell in fourth. So that's the 1, 2, 3, 4. Back a little bit further to Rooney and Robertson from the University of Queensland, and Stoddard and Smith from Cand and Pine Rivers. But we've only got a few strokes left to go for our leading crew. Katrina Wary from Mercantile, Lucy Stefan from Melbourne University will go through and take out heat number 2 of the Championship Women's Elite Pair. Second place going through to Genevieve Hart from Fremantle Rowing Club and Jackie Swick from Swan River. And then in third place from the National Training Centre, it's Adelaide's Ella Bramwell and Sydney University's Jamie Ford. Fourth place in the final spot in the A final, it's Mercantile's Anna Kirkwood and Melbourne University's Jean Mitchell. And then in fifth and sixth places will be the University of Queensland's Alexandra Rooney and Phoebe Robertson. They'll finish in fifth, and then sixth will go to Georgia Stoddard from Pine Rivers and Lukey Smith from Cand Rowing Club.
Yeah, so good to see the two crews there that were out of the qualification spots, really fighting it all the way towards the end.
Moving on to the men's elite pairs, first, second, third and fourth going through to the A final, with the rest going through to the B final. In lane 2, it is Marcus Britt from Sydney University and Miles McQuillan from Swan River Rowing Club. They're coached by Donald McLaughlin. In lane 3, it's Elliot Appel from Toowong Rowing Club and Miller Rowe from Cand Rowing Club. They're also with the Queensland Academy of Sport. In lane 4, a very strong crew from the National Training Centre and Sydney University. It's Jack Hargraves and Jack O'Brien. In lane 5, it is Benjamin Canham from Mercantile and Sam Marsh from Swan River Rowing Club. They're coached by Michael McKay. In lane 6, from Melbourne University, Rowan Lavery and Sydney Rowing Club, Sam Hardy. That's the Melbourne Uni NTC composite. In lane 7, from Melbourne University, Andrew Judge and John Linky, coached by Matthew Ryan. And in lane 8, from Melbourne University, Fraser Miss Campbell and Harry Fox, and they're also coached by Matthew Ryan.
Yeah, so a fine performance coming from the Sydney University pair, Jack Hargraves and Jack O'Brien. And they continue to lead this men's elite pair. You see them in lane number 4 there. Jack Hargraves on the bow side, Jack O'Brien on the stroke side. And continuing to just move along very, very nicely indeed. Jack O'Brien has come through, he's still only young, he's only about 24, 25 years of age. A very prodigious talent, and came from St Joseph's College. And he's there with Jack Hargraves, and they continue to lead through that 1500 metre mark, and from the combination alongside of them.
Yeah, that Swan River Mercantile combination, Benjamin Canham and Sam Marsh, looking nice in second place, but they are being challenged. You've got the Melbourne University NTC composite of Sam Hardy and Rowan Lavery that are sitting in third place at the moment, as well as the Cand Toowong crew of Elliot Appel and Miller Rowe. So first, second, third and fourth going through to the A final, and about the only one you'd say is determined is the NTC Sydney University, Jack Hargraves and Jack O'Brien, as they come up towards the 1750 metre mark. They've got a couple of boat lengths ahead of Benjamin Canham from Mercantile, Sam Marsh from Swan River Rowing Club, and then back about another boat length again to Sam Hardy and Rowan Lavery from Melbourne University, Sydney Rowing Club and the National Training Centre. And then for fourth, well, you could throw a blanket over those other 4 races. Lane 1, the commercial composites, Angus Whitcomb. It's Marcus Britt and Miles McQuillan, Swan River, Sydney University, Elliot Appel, Cand and Toowong, and then Melbourne University's Andrew Judge, John Linky in lane 7, and Fraser Miss Campbell and Harry Fox lane 8.
Yeah, so a great race going on the far side of the course. You can see Marcus Britt and Miles McQuillan really trying to sprint it with the Cand and Toowong combination of Appel and Rowe, but at the head of the field, Jack Hargraves and Jack O'Brien, they look well in control out in front. They have a little bit of clear water from their stern to the bow of Canham and Marsh, who place second. Third to Sam Hardy and Rowan Lavery, and Marcus Britt and Miles McQuillan get there for fourth, just ahead of Appel & Rowe in fifth, who will be relegated to the B final. Sixth goes to Miss Campbell and Fox, and seventh to Judge and Linky of Melbourne University Boat Club.
0.28 of a second there between fourth and fifth. That was very, very close. Only about a bow ball between the two of them, but Britt and McQuillan able to hold off in heat one of the men's elite pairs. Moving on to heat number two, first, second, third and fourth again going through to the A final, with the rest going through to the B final. In lane two from the National Training Centre, it's Angus Whitcomb from Mercantile and Harley Moore from Commercial. In lane three, it's Alexander Wolf from Mercantile and Alex Nicol from Sydney Rowing Club. They're coached by Donovan Seck and Michael McKay. In lane four from Sydney University, Jackson Kench and Will O'Shaughnessy. They're coached by Donald McLaughlin. In lane five from the National Training Centre, Spencer Turren from Sydney Rowing Club, Alex Purnell from Sydney University. In lane six from Melbourne University, Nick Smith and William Ackerman, coached by Matthew Ryan. In lane seven from Melbourne University, Hamish Wynne-Pope and Charlie Petroni, coached by Matthew Ryan. And then there's a scratching of the NTC crew in lane 8.
Yeah, so half the Olympic gold medal winning four. Here, the combination of Spencer Turren of Sydney Rowing Club and Alex Purnell of Sydney University that are leading, and they're leading from Jackson Kench and Will O'Shaughnessy, who were a same under-23 pair last year, but it was when Jackson Kench was at Sydney Rowing Club. Now he's transferred in the biggest move of the winter across to Sydney University, and they're leading, or they're in second spot ahead of Whitcomb and Moore over on the far side of the course from Mercantile and Commercial.
So this is the second heat of the men's elite pairs. And again, one of those ones, it's going to be a fantastic race tomorrow. That NTC crew of Turren and Purnell sitting in the lead at the moment, but they are being challenged quite a bit. Whitcomb and Moore over in lane two. Then back to Jackson Kench, Will O'Shaughnessy from Sydney University, and then the Sydney composite of Alexander Wolf and Alex Nicol before the two Melbourne University ones. Good to see 4 Melbourne University pairs in this particular event, so strong sweeping program there.
Yeah, that's right. So Matty Ryan does a tremendous job at Melbourne University, and yeah, a lot of depth, and these guys are all pretty young as well. Or maybe John Linky might be the exception there, but he's pretty experienced, and Andrew Judge has been around quite a few years, but otherwise it's a pretty up and coming young group at Melbourne University under Matt Ryan. And as we start to make the way up towards 1,450 metres covered, it's still a grey shell of Sydney Rowing Club and Sydney University, Spencer Turren and Alex Purnell that lead Jackson Kench and Will O'Shaughnessy of Sydney University. And they're pretty much going stroke for stroke through that 1,500 metre mark.
Angus Whitcomb and Harley Moore over in lane 2 as well, sitting in third place. So not much between first, second and third. Alexander Wolf and Alex Nicol from Mercantile and Sydney Rowing Club sitting in fourth place at the moment, you'd say, just ahead of the two Melbourne University crews. Nick Smith and William Ackerman are in lane 6, and then Hamish Wynne-Pope and Charlie Petroni also from Melbourne University in lane 7. Coming up towards the 1,750 metre mark, it is still Spencer Turren and Alex Purnell in the lead at the moment, but they are being pushed every single stroke by that Sydney University crew of Jackson Kench and Will O'Shaughnessy. And then coming up in lane 2, Angus Whitcomb and Harley Moore, not out of the realms of impossibility of moving up into second place or even into first. 250 metres to go. Sydney University Alex Purnell and Sydney Rowing Club Spencer Turren, both from the National Training Centre, in the lead, maybe just pulling away a little bit further, now being pushed. Angus Whitcomb and Harley Moore over in lane 2. You just see maybe a little bit dropping off there from Jackson Kench and Will O'Shaughnessy from Sydney University. They're in lane 4, and then back a little bit further. Alexander Wolf and Alex Nicol, the Sydney composite, in lane 3, sitting in 4th, but they are then being pushed by Nick Smith and William Ackerman from Melbourne University in lane 6, and then back to Hamish Wynne-Pope, Charlie Beltroni in lane 7. But now, with only a few strokes to go, it's lane number 5, Spencer Turren, Alex Purnell. They're half a boat length ahead of Jackson Kench and Will O'Shannessy, who've picked up their own rating. It will be a win for Turren and Purnell. Second place goes to Kench and O'Shannessy. Third place to Whitcomb, and Moore weren't able to quite push through up into second. And then fourth place will go to the Sydney Mercantile crew of Wolf and Nickel. And then only half a second back to that Melbourne University crew of Nick Smith, William Ackerman. A big finish there, but again, just a bit too much to finish to be able to go up and claim that position in the A final tomorrow.
Yeah, it was an improved performance from Wolf and Nickel in that one from a few weeks ago. They certainly have come on quite a lot since the small boats regatta here towards the end of last month. The women's under 21 lightweight single scull is the next race on the course. It's the first of our lightweight events at this regatta, and competitors need to weigh in between 2 hours and 1 hour before the start of their event, and need to weigh in at 59 kilograms. So that's the lightweight event here, the under 21 lightweight single, sponsored by Bentley. Heat 1 sees Laura Cypher of Sydney in lane number 3, Sarah Berricree of UTS in 4, Victoria Binns of Loretto Marriotteville in lane number 5, Sophie Robinson of Tasmania University Boat Club in 6, and Olivia Cook of Griffith University Surfers Paradise in lane 7.
And it is that Tasmanian University sculler, Sophie Robertson, who does look to have an early lead, along with Loretto Marriotteville's Victoria Binns. First 4 going through to the A finals, so just finish ahead of one person.
That's right. So put the target on them and just keep pushing on the legs, and hopefully you see them disappear a little bit into the distance. So Victoria Binns already had a tough race in the under 23 pair earlier on today, and we saw Laura Cypher also racing in the single scull, so her second trip down the course in just a few hours, and seeing if they can do the job here and qualify for the A final tomorrow. So it looks like it'll be an crew 8 final and two scullers in the B final.
Yeah, and Sophie Robertson and Victoria Binns with the lead coming up past the 1,000 metre mark, and then not much between the rest. Laura Cypher probably just sitting in third place at the moment, going through, then back to Olivia Cook and Sarah Berricree from UTS sitting in 5th place, so for the B final there. But it is Robertson from Tasmanian University and Loretto Marriotteville's Victoria Binns, our 2 race leaders, as they come up towards the 1250 metre mark. In this, the first heat of the women's under 21 lightweight singles, sponsored by Bentley's.
Yeah, the Tasmania University Boat Club sculler Sophie Robinson doing very, very well here and enjoying clear water over the rest of the field. Victoria Binns was second in the under 16 single scull last year, and also did pretty well, I think, in the schoolgirl single scull last year. The Loretto Marriotteville team have been out here since about Wednesday. They've had quite a few days out here at this regatta, and certainly I wish my school was as generous. When I was growing up, I would have loved to have been at rowing regattas rather than doing geography or something like that. But yeah, they've certainly had a good few days here and here for a couple more. So it looks like a bit of a camp/regatta set up for the Loretto Marriotteville squad here at the New South Wales State Championships.
Maybe that's the carrot that you needed, you know, do well in your geography and then you get extra time at the rowing camp and regatta.
Where would you rather be? That's right. So over on the far side, Cypher is doing quite well for Sydney Rowing Club, and then it is a battle between Cook of Griffith University Surfers Paradise and then Berricree of UTS. So top 4, as Stuart mentioned, is where you want to be. Go through to the A final. And it's pretty tough going if you get through to the B final. Just the one other sculler in there, and it can be a pretty tough mental game there when you're going head-to-head in a B final.
Absolutely, and we're just seeing a little bit more wind pick up. You can just see the flags start to flutter a little bit extra. So it will make it tough for the scullers coming down now. Sophie Robertson from Tasmania University is looking quite comfortable at the moment. She does have clear water over Victoria Binns from Loretto Marriotteville. Then back a little bit further, Laura Cypher being able to back up her row earlier today with a nice little one today. Olivia Cook from Griffith University Surfers Paradise sitting in 4th place at the moment, and then back a little bit further to Sarah Berritry from UTS. So the first 4 at the moment looks to be Robertson, Binns, Cypher and Cook, with Berritry going through to the B final, but we've still got about 350 metres to go in this first heat of the women's under-21 lightweight singles.
Yeah, so some nice sculling from Tasmania University Boat Club. They've got a very strong junior and youth contingent, and they've done very well at nationals in the last sort of handful of years, and a very, very good program there. We're seeing them across junior men's and women's events.
And also in the lightweight, the Tasmanian lightweight women's squad in the interstate regatta, 2-time, going for the hat trick of titles, 2020, 2019, 2021. Looking to see if they can make a hat trick here in a couple of months' time.
That's right, and George Nesbitt's been at the centre of that group of talented lightweights, along with Eve Muir, who is very, very experienced. And Sophie Robinson here continuing to control, as she had about one dud stroke going through the 1500 metre mark, and just put that out of her mind and just focusing on this. Getting through the last 50 metres nice and cleanly. Cypher on the far side, just got the rating up and continuing to just push a little bit further ahead of Victoria Binns and Loretto Marriotteville. They're the top 3, and Olivia Cook of Griffith University Surfers Paradise set to claim that all-important 4th spot.
So the qualifiers for in Heat 1 of the women's lightweight under-21 single sculls: Sophie Robertson from Tasmania University Boat Club, and 2nd place Laura Cypher from Sydney Rowing Club, 3rd place Victoria Binns from Loretto Marriotteville, and in 4th from Griffith University Surfers Paradise, Olivia Cook. 5th place and into the B final will be Sarah Berritry from UTS. Heat number 2 is underway. 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th in the A final. 5th going through to the B final. Lane 3 from Griffith University Surfers Paradise. It's Olivia Georgilopoulos, coached by Lincoln Handley. 2nd race down the course for her this morning. In lane 4 from Tasmania University, Kate Oliver. In lane 5 from Sydney Rowing Club, Liesl Page, coached by Brendan Longman and Donovan Seck. In lane 6 from Griffith University Surfers Paradise, Jazz Ingle, coached by Lincoln Handley. And in lane 7 from ANU, it's Charlotte Ryan, and she's coached by Nigel Harding.
Yeah, so once again, the top 4 to go through, and 5th will go through to the B final. And the scullers doing well in this one are the 3 on the southern stations: Georgilopoulos, Oliver and Page. And then it is back to Ryan of ANU and Jazz Ingle in her 2nd race in not an overly long period, is back in 5th place, and with a bit of work to do if she's going to make it through to the A final.
Coming up towards the 1250 metre mark, and you can see there Olivia Georgilopoulos sitting in the lead at the moment. Then back a little bit further, Liesl Page from Sydney Rowing Club, Charlotte Ryan from ANU and Kate Oliver from Tasmania University. And then Jazz Ingle from Griffith University Surfers Paradise, probably a little bit off the pace. I've just been informed from that last race, Victoria Binns, Loretto Marriotteville, racing above her age group. So they're doing some wonderful things. Tom Dornbus from Loretto doing some wonderful things with the rowers there. Just had the word through from Joe Malcolm down in South Australia, passing on a little bit of information there. But as we're coming up now towards the 1500 metre mark, it is Olivia Georgilopoulos in the lead, coming up with 1500, ahead of Kate Oliver from Tasmania University, Liesl Page from Sydney Rowing Club, and Charlotte Ryan from ANU. Charlotte making the move a couple of seasons ago from Capital Lakes in the ACT, training with Nigel Harding's high performance squad. We'll see later on, you've got Anika Reardon and Sophie Gerapatridis, both from ANU, originally from Tasmania and New South Wales, now training in the nation's capital, and they're looking for Australian selection. So they've got a nice new boat ready to go, and it'll be an interesting one in that women's lightweight double.
Yeah, that's right. So very experienced, those two, and certainly see how they fare in a high-quality field here at the New South Wales Rowing Championships. So George Lopoulos of Griffith University Surfers Paradise has been prominent throughout and continues to lead. Kate Oliver of Tasmania University Boat Club. Liesl Page, the former Pymble rower, is there in third spot, and then it is a gap of about 2.5 to 3 boat lengths to Ryan of ANU, and then a slightly more substantial gap back to Jazz Ingle of Griffith University Surfers Paradise. So of the two scullers from Griffith University Surfers Paradise, it looks like one will progress as the heat winner and the other will progress through to the B final.
250 metres to go for Olivia Georgopoulos, coached by Lincoln Handley. As mentioned, there's quite a few boat lengths ahead of Kate Oliver from Tasmania University. The back to Liesl Page, Charlotte Ryan and Jazz Ingle. Not many races to go left for today. The weather's held off rather nicely. We've not had too much in the way of wind, too much in the way of rain. But it's nice to get it all out of the way. Everyone's got a chance to maybe have an afternoon training or an afternoon siesta before getting ready for the big stuff tomorrow, starting off with the para events, the para single sculls, and then moving on to the men's and women's elite single sculls in the morning.
Yeah, that's right. So we originally, a few years ago, brought the start of the Friday session forward to 9:30. It used to start about 1 o'clock to try and beat the heat, and that's obviously not a problem this year. And Olivia Georgopoulos, qualification not a problem for her, takes out heat 2 of the Championship Women's Under-21 Lightweight Single Scull. Kate Oliver of Tasmania University Boat Club will ensure that they also will have 2 scullers in the A final. Page of Sydney will be third, and ANU's Charlotte Ryan fourth, and then it will be Jazz Ingle of Griffith University Surfers Paradise placing 5th.
Getting ready for the start of the women's under-23 lightweight singles. It's the first heat. They're sponsored by Bentley's, and it's first, second, third and fourth through to the A final and the rest through to the B final. In lane 2 from Centenary in the Queensland Academy of Sport, Sophie Malcolm, and she's coached by Michael Obsterlin. In lane 3 from Sydney Rowing Club, Nadine Johnson Agero, and she's coached by Lachlan Carter and Donovan Seck. In lane 4 from Drummoyne, Eve Timms, coached by Robin Mackney and Graham Gardner. In lane 5 from Mercantile, Olivia Evans, coached by Alistair Matthews and Michael McKay. In lane 6 from Mersey, Hannah Tippett, coached by David Tippett. In lane 7 from Banks Rowing Club, Antionetta De Cosmo, coached by Thomas Kruber. And in lane 8 from Centenary Rowing Club, Jessica Malcolm, coached by Michael Obsterlin and Peter Wadsworth. So a couple of Malcolms.
Yeah, they're very good combination in the lightweight double scull, and see if both of them can qualify here. 4 spots up for grabs, and certainly doing well on the far side. Sophie Malcolm at 3 out. Hannah Tippett of Mersey also faring quite well, and coached by David Tippett. Is a very strong Tippett family in the sport down in northern Tasmania, and seeing Hannah Tippett here doing quite well in this women's under-23 lightweight single scull. The only sculler that has started to drop back is Nadine Johnson Arroyo of Sydney Rowing Club. She's pretty diminutive, sort of sub 50 kilogram sculler, so no worries about having to weigh in and make the 59 kilograms or less. The other scullers all have to fit under to make the lightweight category, and she's just finding the pace a little bit too hot for her liking, as the leading scullers are coming up towards the 1500 metre mark with Sophie Malcolm. That is the race leader on the far side of the course.
And she's just ahead of Hannah Tippett in lane 6 from Mersey. So again, continuing that strong Tasmanian lightweights tradition, I guess. Jessica Malcolm from Centenary sitting in 3rd place at the moment. It's pretty well spread out across the 8 lanes. And then Eve Timms from Drummoyne sitting in 4th place as things stand. Antionetta De Cosmo from Banks Rowing Club also in with a chance of qualifying for the A final. First, second, third and fourth going through. And as I come up towards the 1750 metre mark, still Sophie Malcolm from Centenary and the Queensland Academy of Sport in the lead, being pushed by Hannah Tippett from Mersey. Back again to Centenary's Jessica Malcolm. Can we get a pair of Malcolms through to the A final of the women's under 23 lightweight single sculls? Antionetta De Cosmo from Banks sitting nicely in fourth ahead of Olivia Evans from Mercantile, Eve Timms from Drummoyne, and then Nadine Johnson Aruo from Sydney Rowing Club.
Yeah, so I think the answer might be yes, Stuart. The Malcolm sisters are set to claim top four placings in this one. So Sophie on the far side, Jessica on the near side, both coached by Michael Opstelton, and Peter Wadsworth also coaching Jessica on this side of the course. And in fourth position is the Banks sculler Antonetta De Cosmo, coached by Tom Krieber. And a good race between Mercantile's Olivia Evans and Eve Timms of Drummoyne in that race for fifth position. And then back to the Sydney sculler. But over on the far side of the course, moving the boat along quite nicely and getting a fair bit of reach out front, Sophie Malcolm of Centenary and the Queensland Academy of Sport.
And she's very much clear water between her and Hannah Tippett from Mersey, and then back a little bit further to Jessica Malcolm. But with a couple of strokes to go, it will be Sophie Malcolm, Centenary Rowing Club and the Queensland Academy of Sport with the win in Heat 1 of the women's under-23 lightweight singles. Second place will go to Hannah Tippett from Mersey. Third place to Centenary Rowing Club's Jessica Malcolm. So first and third for the Malcolm sisters. Fourth place in qualifying for the A final, Antionetta De Cosmo from Banks Rowing Club. And then she's finished ahead of Olivia Evans from Mercantile, Drummoyne's Eve Timms, and then back a little bit further to Nadine Johnson Aruo from Sydney Rowing Club. So that was the first heat of the women's under-23 lightweight singles. In heat number 2, we've got, again, first, second, third and fourth going through to the A final. In lane 2 from Corio Bay, it's Maggie Foley. She's coached by Lee Hall-Sullivan. We do have a scratching from Toowong in lane 3. In lane 4 from Mercantile, it's Demetria Kieropoulos, coached by Alistair Matthews and Michael McKay. Lane 5 from ANU and the ACT Academy of Sport, Alexandra Moylan, coached by Dave Romano. In lane 6 from Sydney Rowing Club, Grace Cypher, coached by Lachlan Carter and Donovan Seck. And in lane 7 from Adelaide University and the South Australian Sports Institute, Isabel Watson.
Yeah, so just a small contingent from Corio Bay, Maggie Foley and Xavier Hall-Sullivan have made the trip from Geelong here. They were only here just a few weeks ago, 3 weeks ago at the Small Boats Regatta, and they made the long trip back up here once again and looking to do quite well. We saw Xavier Hall-Sullivan take out his under-23 single scull heat. And at the moment, Maggie Foley looking well placed here to qualify, but it's Grace Cypher that continues to lead. A very, very talented young sculler. Came down from Rockhampton Grammar to Sydney Rowing Club a few years ago, and she's coached by Lachlan Carter and Donovan Seck. Alexandra Moylan alongside of her. And as the race progresses, but also in the lane draw here, and coming out or trying to move out with them is Isabel Watson of Adelaide Uni and the South Australian Sports Institute. Demetria Kiriakopoulos, coached by Al Matthews and Mike Mackay of the Awesome Foursome fame, is back in fifth position and with a little bit of work to do if she's to progress through to the A final.
Yeah, coming up towards the 1500 metre mark, it is Grace Cypher from Sydney Rowing Club, Alexandra Moylan from ANU, the two in the lead at the moment. Not much between them and Maggie Foley from Corio Bay, and then back a little bit further to Isabel Watson and Demetria Kiriakopoulos from Mercantile. So the first four going through, so just basically keep that one rower in your sights, keep them behind you, so to speak, and make it through to the A final. But it's still a good battle though between first and second, between Cypher and Moylan, and then Foley maybe just dropping a little bit further back. Grace Cypher from Sydney Rowing Club Now just maybe pulling ahead of Alex Moylan from ANU, about half to a full boat length between first and second at the moment. So that is looking like it'll be Cypher, Moylan, Watson and Foley going through as they come up towards the 1750 metre mark.
Yeah, it hasn't been the best of starts to the regatta for Sydney Rowing Club. Earlier in the week they ran their MPAC 8 up against the pontoon and put a big gash in the side of it, and they weren't able to really fend it off. So, but here it is Grace Cypher that's still fending off the rest of the field, and in this under 23 lightweight single scull heat, still with some clear water over the talented Alexandra Moylan from the ANU, and Maggie Foley of Corio Bay sculling nicely over on the far side of the course, and starting to put a bit of a sprint finish in here, and starting to pick up a fair bit of ground on Moylan from the ANU. It's still Moylan holding down second spot, but the comfort of which that is being held is being diminished as Maggie Foley's got the rating up and looking across and seeing if she can improve her position. So she's at 36 strokes a minute, the Corio Bay sculler, in the last 70 metres. But I don't think the positions will change. Cypher will take out heat number 2 of the women's under 23 lightweight single scull. Moylan from ANU second, Foley of Corio Bay third, and fourth to Watson from Adelaide University in the South Australian Sports Institute. And Demetria Kyriakopoulos of Mercantile will place fifth and go through to final B.
As we move on now to the first heat of the men's elite lightweight single sculls, they're sponsored by Croker Oars, with first, second and third going through to the A final, fourth, fifth and sixth going through to the B final, and any remainders being eliminated. In lane 2 from UTS, it's Jack Message, coached by Alex Field and Hallie Chapman. In lane 3 from Swan River, Patrick Bohr, coached by Mark Beer. In lane 4 from Mercantile, Red Matthews, coached by Michael McKay. In lane 5 from Commercial QAS, Queensland Academy of Sport, Jack Armitage. In lane 6 from Banks Rowing Club, Harry Cathcart, coached by Thomas Krieber. In lane 7 from Toowong Rowing Club, it's David Carter. And in lane 8 from Sydney University, Wyatt Batt, and he's coached by Christopher Holliday and Thomas Lurick. So they're up now towards the 1,000 metre mark, and it does look to be Jack Armitage from Commercial and the Queensland Academy of Sport who has the lead, as well as Red Matthews from Mercantile, Patrick Bohr from Swan River. So that's our 1, 2, 3 at the moment. They've got a little bit ahead of David Carter from Toowong in lane 7, Harry Cathcart from Banks in lane 6, Sydney University's Wyatt Batt in lane 8, and UTS's Jack Message over in lane 1. First, second and third, as mentioned, going through to the A final of this men's elite lightweight single sculls.
Yeah, so some good sculling here coming from Red Matthews of Mercantile, coached by Mike Mackay, and as he leads Armitage as they make their way up to the 1,400 metre mark. And the Swan River sculler, Patrick Bayrer, coached by Mark Beer. He's been back over at Swan River after being at Cambridge for a few years. And they're the leading 3 and 4th. Looks to be David Carter of Toowong, Toowong, a club with a very, very good lightweight squad. And David Carter has been part of that for quite a few years now, and he's in top 4 position. So top 3, though, is what you need to be to go through to the A final, and 4th, 5th and 6th through to the B final. And in 5th position we have Cathcart of Banks, followed by Wyatt Batt, who was in the New South Wales Penrith Cup crew last year. Placed second, and Jack Message from UTS over on the far side of the course. He had a bit of a late start to the season, and but he certainly loves his racing and certainly gets around it, and a great person to have around the club, Jack Message. And he's still having a crack over on the far side of the course, but back in 7th position.
Now they're coming up now towards the 1750 metre mark, 250 to go. It's Red Matthews from Mercantile. He's got a couple of boat lengths lead ahead of Jack Armitage from Commercial, Queensland Academy of Sport. Then David Carter from Toowong has managed to make his move up, and I think he might just be ahead of Patrick Bohr from Swan River Rowing Club over there in lane 3. So we might have David Carter from Toowong moving up into the qualifying positions for tomorrow's A final. Back a little bit further again to Cathcart from Banks, Bat from Sydney University, and Message from UTS. Now with about 125 metres to go. Red Matthews looking very comfortable out in front, just dropping the rate a little bit, making sure there's a lot of pressure in the legs, and very, very efficient out in front there ahead of Jack Armitage from Commercial. Then for third place, all of a sudden we've seen David Carter from Toowong and Patrick Bohr from Swan River. They're both battling it out. David looked like he was just making a bit more ground, and then Patrick Bohr from Swan River has picked up his game as well. It's a win for Red Matthews, second to Jack Armitage. Third place with a couple of strokes to go. It will be lane 7. David Carter, big finish at the end there. You can see him taking in the deep breaths as he crossed over the line, just about a quarter of a boat length ahead of Patrick Bohr from Swan River, who was looking good to qualify for that A final. Couldn't quite make it through. Lane 6's Banks's Harry Cathcart finishing in 5th place, 6th place to Wyatt Bat, and then back to UTS's Jack Message in 7th. So that was the first heat of the men's elite lightweight single sculls. We're on to heat number 2. First 3 to the A final, second 3 through to the B final. Lane 2 from Toowong Rowing Club, Austin Dipple. In lane 3 from Swan River, Rowan James, coached by Mark Beer. In lane 4 from ANU and the ACT Academy of Sport, it's Hamish Harding. He's coached by Dave Romano. In lane 5 from Mossman Rowing Club, Sean Murphy, coached by Matthias Ungermack. In lane 6 from Bucks, it's Alec Patterson. In lane 7 from UTS, Peter Waldersee, coached by Alex Field and Hallie Chapman. In lane 8 from Port Macquarie, Barnabas Benet, and he's coached by Emma Molinar.
Yeah, so the Port Macquarie president, Barnabas there in lane number 8. He's just back a little bit off the pace in this one, and it looks like Peter Waldersee also just starting to lose a bit of touch with the leading scullers. And it is Hamish Harding that's doing quite well, and also Alec Patterson of Buckingham that are right up there through the 1,000 metre mark. Sean Murphy in 3rd spot, and then it is back to sculler from over in lane number 3 from Swan River, Rowan James. Dipple of Toowong would be next, and then followed by Peter Waldersee and then Barnabas Benet from Port Macquarie.
Hamish Harding, of course, the son of Nigel Harding, the coach, and also Adair Ferguson.
That's right.
Former lightweight world champion. Angus Harding, still a very handy rower, became a father for the first time recently.
Yeah, the big Gus bus when he gets that moving, the single, he's certainly good to watch. And Hamish is he's a sculler that's really improved his sculling a lot. He was changed his technique a lot in the last few years under Nick Garrett and now David Framano, and sculling along quite nicely, and is now one of the leading lightweights in the country, as he's really improved a lot.
Absolutely. They're one of those families that are just amazingly sportingly talented.
Yep.
Leaves the rest of us thinking, I can run quickly, kind of. Very difficult to beat a Harding, but we have at the moment, it is Hamish Harding and Alec Patterson who are battling it out for first place in this second heat of the men's elite lightweight single sculls. Alex Patterson from Bucks, probably just with the lead over Hamish at the moment. Back to Rowan James from Swan River. So that's the 1, 2, 3. Sean Murphy from Mossman sitting in 4th place at the moment, but certainly not out of qualification places at the moment. Then back to Austin Dipple from Toowong, Peter Waldersee from UTS, and Barnabas Benet from Port Macquarie sitting in 7th place at the moment. So he would be the one to drop out of both the A and the B final as things stand as they come up past the 1,500 metre mark. We're just seeing a big push there from Hamish Harding now. So a good battle between Hamish Harding, lane 4 from ANU, and Alec Patterson from Bucks in lane 6. Not much between them. Hamish Harding just starting to pull away a little bit, really show that status, as Owen says, as being one of the better lightweight rowers, male rowers in Australia. Mossman's Sean Murphy has moved up into third place at the moment ahead of Swan River's Rowan James. Then Peter Waldersey's has moved up into fifth place at the moment ahead of Toowong's Austin Dipple and Barnabas Benet from Port Macquarie as they come up towards the 1750 metre mark.
Yeah, it's had a great race here between the two, Buckingham and the ANU. And those two look set to qualify for the A final. And they're still fighting it out to see who can grab one of the centre lanes. Hamish Harding with the rating right up, putting in the big ones. Alec Patterson still finishing off those strokes very strongly indeed. He's at 37 strokes a minute. Hamish Harding, he's at 40 strokes a minute. And there's a couple of extra strokes a minute. It's helping him with his bow in front as they get into the last 60 metres. And Hamish Harding, I think, is going to grit this one out. And he's going to come to the line. He's going to have about a boat length advantage over Alec Patterson of Buckingham in the end in this second heat of the Championship Men's Elite Lightweight Single Scull. Sean Murphy in third spot, and he will go through to the A final at the expense of Rowan James of Swan River. He will go into the B final as a result of finishing fourth. And Peter Waldersey, who has continued to improve his position down the course, started off slowly and has just worked his way into it and now moved ahead of Dipple of Toowong. And it will be Waldersey of UTS set to place fifth, Dipple sixth, and Benet of Port Macquarie seventh.
You just see there, it's I think Hamish Harding bounced his way to first place there. A little bit of up and down on the boat as he put the big strokes in towards the end there to make sure that he did qualify in first place. But a strong win there for Hamish Harding. The final race of today's program, it is Heat 3 of the Men's Elite Lightweight Single Sculls, first, second and third through to the A final, fourth, fifth and sixth through to the B final. In lane 2 from UTS, it's Will Clark. He's coached by Alex Field and Hallie Chapman. In lane 3 from North S, Connor Ryan, coached by Trevor Barrett and Brendan Long. In lane 4 from the University of Queensland and the Queensland Academy of Sport, Blaine Hesseltine. In lane 5 from Adelaide and the South Australian Sports Institute, it's Oscar McGuinness. In lane 6 from UTS, Michael McRae, coached by Alex Field and Hallie Chapman. And in lane 7, another of our para rowers in tomorrow, one of the very quick rowers, Mac Russell from the University of Queensland, and he's coached by Michael Russell.
And it is a Mac attack out there. You've got McGuinness, McRae and Mac Russell, but it's McGuinness and McRae at the head of the field. McGuinness leading. He's the son of a former Adelaide Crows captain. And he's a very, very talented athlete, Oscar McGuinness. And he's there alongside Michael McRae in the black, white and teal of UTS. He's the UTS captain. He's coached by Alex Field and Hallie Chapman, and these two are duking it out down the course here. Michael McRae didn't make the final here last year, and he went on to claim second in the lightweight single at Nationals, and then he won the lightweight double with Morgan Hodgson. So it was a good end to the season for Michael McRae last year. And he looks to be in pretty good form here today as he's having a good race with Oscar McGuinness of Adelaide and the South Australian Sports Institute.
Yeah, Blaine Hesseltine from the University of Queensland as well, doing sitting up behind them. He's making sure that they know that he's there anyway. So that's our first three as things stand. A little bit further back to Connor Ryan, Will Clark from UTS, and then Mac Russell from the University of Queensland. But he'll be a big one in the men's para race tomorrow. Two-time interstate gold medalist for Queensland from the University of Queensland. So I would expect to see him do some good things. It's actually going to be an exciting few races in the para singles. The men's para singles, we saw Nicholas Neals on earlier, Mac Russell coming up now. And then in the women's race, I think we've seen Lisa Griesel from Lake Macquarie do some good things at small boats.
Yeah, Jess Gallagher will be over in on the far side of the course. She's obviously an amazing athlete, and great to see them do battle tomorrow. But at the moment, it's the top three look pretty certain. Oscar McGuinness, Blaine Hesseltine, and Michael McRae. And it's the top three that will go through to the A final, and fourth, fifth, and sixth through to the B final. And it's Connor Ryan's in fourth, and then it's a fair gap back to Will Clark and Mac Russell in fifth and sixth.
We were just seeing a bit of rain sprinkle across. It's worked out, the timing's been good. This is the last race of the day. The rain's starting to come across now, so we're all set. They can get off the course and not too much damage done there. But it is between Blaine Heseltine, Oscar McGuinness and Michael McRae for first, second and third. You'd say it's between McGuinness from Adelaide Rowing Club and Blaine Heseltine from the University of Queensland and the Queensland Academy of Sport. Battling it out for first and second. Connor Ryan from North Esk. As they pass the 1750, not too far behind. The rain's now starting to come down a little bit heavier, making conditions just that little bit tougher. The oars will get a little bit slipperier. Will Clark from UTS and Mac Russell from the University of Queensland a bit further behind them. So our leading rowers, Oscar McGuinness from Adelaide and the South Australian Sports Institute, Blaine Heseltine, University of Queensland, Queensland Academy of Sport, battling it out first and second. Michael McRae, UTS, only about a boat length back in third place, and all to do for Connor Ryan from North Esk as they come up towards the last few strokes. It will be lane 5, Oscar McGuinness from Adelaide and the South Australian Sports Institute, up to a boat length ahead now of Blaine Heseltine from the University of Queensland. He'll finish a half a boat length ahead of Michael McRae from UTS in third place. They'll go through to tomorrow's A final. Connor Ryan from North Esk, strong row from him. He'll qualify for the B final tomorrow. And then it'll be a few boat lengths back to Will Clark from UTS in lane 2, and then Mac Russell from the University of Queensland in lane 7. So tomorrow's program, Owen, we start off with the paras and then move on to the men's and women's elite single sculls.
That's right, yep. And then obviously, you've got the under-17 8s also early in the morning as well, as one of the earlier finals. And the school 8s are also another highlight of that. But yeah, we saw the elite pairs and the elite single sculls. They're always a highlight of Saturday morning at the New South Wales State Championships. And the pair of Bronwyn Cox and Annabelle McIntyre, one to watch, Werry, and also Lucy Stefford, another one to watch in the women's side of things. And Purnell, Turren,
You'd imagine there's some serious bragging rights up for grabs in that men's and women's elite pairs. Yeah,
that's right. So it's great to see these athletes having good, tough racing and coming together for these New South Wales Championships, which doubles as a selection regatta as well.
First race, 8 o'clock.
That's right. Yep. So and reminder to crews, if you are looking to train on the course, that the course will reopen for training 30 minutes after the start of that last race at about 1:05 p.m. If you are unfamiliar with the training traffic flow, please check out the maps around the course or the maps on the website, and also ensure that you tie down your boats and your tents, because as you can see, winds can pick up rather quickly and it can be pretty costly.
All right, well that concludes racing for today, day 1 of the 2022 New South Wales Championships. Thank you, Owen.
Thank you, Stuart. Yeah, and thank you to all our volunteers that make this possible. It's always very difficult, and we're very thankful for volunteers that give up their time, particularly on a weekday. So this regatta has obviously grown to a point where we need this Friday to run a lot of these heats, and we very much thank our volunteers for their support in running this regatta safely and fairly, and most importantly enjoyably for our competitors.